All right, here we are for part 2 of our, I keep wanting to say Adventures in the Forgotten Realm. No! Alchemy Horizons Baldur's Gate set review, doing commons and uncommons today, rares and mythics tomorrow. If you watched part 1, you know we already covered multicolored artifacts, lands, and then of course white and blue. And now we're going to do black, red, and green here, starting off with Armor of Shadows. Single black for an instant. Until end of turn, target creature gets +1/+0 and gains indestructible.
Yeah, nice little trick. 1 mana, like we said before, 1 mana for a trick is pretty nice. This is going to protect against combat and also removal spells for the most part. I don't know how often your black deck's really gonna want a combat trick that's more of a green, white, or red kind of thing often. But yeah, if you're in the market for it, this is a solid one.
Yeah, I'm not really into this, to be honest.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know, I mean, it's like fine, but like I mean, how much? I don't know. I'm sure you're going to be like a fair bit, 1 point of power. But compare this to the indestructible adventure tacked onto that white flyer.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It
Like
doesn't
that,
matter. The one
the
doesn't
one,
matter all the way. It helps you win more combats, but it's not like a for the family where you then go up unblock creature, deal you a bunch.
right? Yeah, I think I'm out on this. I think I'm just going to give it like a D minus.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna start at C minus, but I respect it.
Wow, and the full letter grade disparity and still just being polite to one another.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine the civility in 2022?
Can you imagine Magic players just being nice to each other for
Like,
one?
oh, okay, that's fair. Oh, you disagree with me? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Next up, we got a good one. I think what we can agree on.
Uh-huh.
Shambling Gas, single black mana for a 1/1. When it dies, you either choose one, give something -1/-1 until end of turn, or you make a treasure token.
Yeah, this card's good. It's probably like gonna be. At least I hope it's like just gonna be worse on rate in this format than it was in AFR because it was very good in AFR. But yeah, this card's quite good. Probably C plus.
Yeah, like spoiler alert, we still have Deadly Dispute in this format where on turn 2 you can sacrifice this and then draw some cards and get
spoiler
5.
alert, we still have Skullport Merchant.
Yes, Skullport Merchant is
Like
still
what
a
the
thing.
heck? Why? Anyway,
A lot of the black cards, a lot of the black treasure package has just stayed the same in this set. So it's going to be a lot of the same, and that same was very good. Black ended up being the best color in that format at the end. So I like it. I would give it a C plus. Yeah.
Yeah, C plus for sure. Someone was asking about Armor of Shadows if it gives the benefit for good. No, it doesn't gain indestructible for good. That's the word we're looking for would be perpetually, and it does not do that. Another reprint here is Deadly Dispute. 1 and a black for an instant. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sack an artifact or creature, then you draw 2 cards and create a treasure token.
This card just is. So this is the best version of this card we've seen. This, sacrifice a creature or something and draw 2 cards. The fact that really this comes down to either it's 1 mana if you want it to be because you get your treasure back right away, and you can sacrifice an artifact, and also it ramps you from, let's say you sacrificed your Shambling Gas, for example, all the way up to 5 mana if it is Shambling Gas, or if it's something else, it ramps you additional mana to then cast those cards. This card is just good, and I don't even need to talk about the steal and stack stuff that does exist in this set that existed at AFR. You're gonna want multiple copies of this card, which is not something you often say about this brand of card.
This is your best argument against my like for Minimus Containment.
Sure, yeah.
But like, because I was going to bring up, like, this is one of the reasons why Charmed Sleep and Ray of Frost and Minimus Containment are just embarrassed in this format. Getting to go, cool, draw 2 cards, make a treasure. It's just like, I'm sorry, you get to do what? Another C plus?
Yeah, I'm going to give this a B minus. I think this card's fantastic.
This is better than Ghast?
I think so, yeah. Okay. It's one of those things where it's contextual. You want, like, some mix of them depending on what you have, but they're very close.
Okay.
Next up, man, I think black is already better than blue, Ethan.
Yes. We've given 1 more C plus than we managed to give, and I think it was mostly a pity C plus for blue.
We've got Guildsworn Prowler. This is 1 and a black for a 2/1. It's got Death Touch, and when it dies, if it wasn't blocking, you draw a card. A weird line of text if it wasn't blocking, but it just means if it dies when it's attacking, you draw a card. Or you can sacrifice it, let's say, to draw a card.
That's really good.
Yeah, this card's good. So the way this plays out is on turn 2, your opponent definitely doesn't want to block.
How is this a common? This feels like an uncommon to me.
It does. It's power level wise. It feels
because you're like, okay, so it's either a 2 mana 2/1 unblockable, because it's gonna trade with whatever blocks it, and then you're gonna draw a card.
Yep.
That's great. You can sack it if you want the extra card. And for some reason, the 2/1 Death Touch isn't that good. And then obviously it's a Death Toucher that blocks is also very good. This card's really good.
You can just have it as a blocker if you want, right? Like, B-.
I think so.
Yeah, I think a place
Oh my god.
This card's great.
Okay.
I guess this is maybe I don't know how much this matters, but this is one of we were talking about the rogue team kind of not being when you hit them, you put a goggles on this, maybe they're a little bit sadder about, but I don't know. I don't think that actually matters. This is just a good card.
That is my patented phrase of not playing bad cards to make your good cards better.
Exactly.
Next is Horde Robber. Wow, look how they massacred my boy. 1 and a black for a 1/3. When it deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token.
So I remember, if I remember correctly, this was a card you were sort of high-ish on, maybe higher than the rest of the community on by the end of the format, if I remember correctly.
I was just trying to feel something, Alex. I don't know what to tell you. I was just trying to feel something. I mean, so again, in conjunction with either Black-White Venture or Blue-Black, but more likely Black-White Venture was a deck that was very much interested in treasures, in accruing value, in a 1/3 to block to hold off any kind of whatever aggro start, though that didn't quite really hold up because the pack tactics of it all sort of messed with that. But when you wanted to play your Yuan T whatever, the 2/2 Death Touch that ventured, and you wanted to play Thieves Tools, and you wanted this, like, there was a world where this was okay. Even in some versions of Black Red, I liked this. Like, I'm not really seeing it here. Like, this is worse than the last 3 cards we've looked at.
For sure. Yeah. It's one of those cards that you played on 2, your opponent doesn't have a 2, you get a hit in, you feel like you're on top of the world, right?
Yeah.
But if they play a 2/2, you're like, oh, well, I guess now I have a 1/3.
Yeah.
So
probably D+ on this.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Sepulchre Ghoul. So this is 2 and a black for a 2/1. It's a zombie, and it says sacrifice another creature. The ghoul gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Activate only once each turn. So
now there is an alchemy version of this card, but
yes,
it is not in this set, correct?
Yeah, as far as I know, and that's my running theory. We don't have confirmation, but I'm pretty sure in limited we will be playing with this normal version that only gets plus. That is a 2/1, not a 2/2.
Alchemy of course, limited when Watsy.
Yes, exactly. Part of the steal sack thing, you can.
Yeah. Free sack outlets is just great.
Free sack, like, it's not a sorcery speed.
Not sorcery speed, so the threat of activation on this is also quite real.
Yep.
Yeah, this is another C+, I think.
Yeah, I would go C+ on this as well. I think this is it's just a good enough card, has the synergy upside as well when you have the right cards. It's just solid 2-drop, which is it is more than we can say for a lot of the 2-drops we've seen.
Oh, some folks are saying it uses the alchemy versions in limited. I'd be very surprised if we play with the 2/1 in limited. So we're gonna move on. Who knows?
Yeah, we don't know for sure. I was my snooping around told me 2/1. It doesn't make too much of a difference as far as our evaluation goes. Like, obviously the 2/2 is better, but we'll see.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Thieves Tools. 1 and a black for an equipment. We've been alluding to this for a bit. It has an equip cost of 2. When it enters the battlefield, you make a treasure token, and equipped creature can't be blocked as long as its power is 3 or less. Again, with the lack of on-hit stuff, I think this gets a bit worse. Certainly with blue being quite weak, it gets a bit worse. But if you've got on-hit stuff, if you, I don't know, like, this is hard to interact. The thing about this card is that it is hard to interact with, and it makes a treasure, it ramps, whatever. Like, I don't know. My guess is this is going to be worse than it was in AFR, and it wasn't even that good in AFR.
Yeah, I would just give this like a D-. I don't think, unless you have a very specific reason to run it, I don't think I would.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Next up, we got Sewer Plague. 2 and a black for an instant. Target creature an opponent controls perpetually gets -2/-2, and it gains at the beginning of each upkeep. This creature perpetually gets -1/-1. So you cast it, goes to -2/-2. If that doesn't kill it, it goes to your opponent's turn, and if it's a 3/3, it's gonna die. And when it comes back to you, if it's a 4/4, it's gonna die.
Oh yeah, and even like if you manage to sack it and then recast it, it's still gonna have all that text, right?
Yes, exactly. You bounce it. A bounce spell doesn't save this or anything like that.
So she gone. It's dead.
Yep.
Like, all right, great. And another, I don't know. This might even just be B- territory.
It's close-ish to murder, right? Not quite, because it's not going to kill everything right away, but eventually it will kill the thing, and it will get.
You know how I love murder.
Right. Same here. We're not like dying over murder or anything, but I would give this a B- or maybe a C+. I think it is a good removal spell.
Yeah. All right. I'll go C+. I think that's
Okay, cool.
that's a good way to bring me back to reality here, comparing it to murder.
Next up, Demogorgon's Clutches. 2 and a black, sorcery. Target opponent discards 2 cards, mills 2 cards, and loses 2 life.
No.
Yeah, it's a mind rot with not a lot of tangible upside.
Right.
So
yeah,
I think
not a lot of good stuff attached to it as we've been we've gotten used to. So
exactly. So D-.
D-. That sounds good to me. I'm just gonna go. For all my best of 3 stands out there, I'm just going sideboard.
Yeah, let's do that. That's a good idea.
All right, gray salad here. Gray slod, but
Salad.
but we're calling this gray salad. Let's be honest here. 2 and a black for a 4/1 frog horror. As long as there are 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard, gray salad has menace and death touch. That's a whopper right there on a 3-mana 4/1.
A good combo.
And it helps to fuel itself with its adventure and Entropic Decay, 1 and a black, mill 4 cards.
Yeah, so I guess if you don't have a 2-drop, you'll cast the adventure, but you're not often going to be casting this. Like if you have another 3 or you don't have another 3-drop to play and you've already played your 2-drop, you're just going to cast this before you cast the decay, right? You're just going to cast your 4/1, which isn't so good. Eventually, it'll become a 4/1 death touch menace, but 4 creature cards in the grave is not trivial, right? 4 cards, that's not so bad. You cast a removal spell, maybe you've milled, discard a land or something. 4 creature cards is well into the game, unless you turbo it out somehow.
Correct.
So later in the game, maybe you'll have time. You top deck this on turn 6 or something. Maybe it's already on, and if it's not, you go, okay, well, I have mana to mill 4 and then cast this, so 5 mana for the whole deal. And then that's an okay card. But I think for the most part, this is not a very good card.
Green black is like random graveyard stuff. Like, do you think this is kind of like a role player there, or is this just not good?
I don't think the payoffs are as such that you would care enough to spend 2 mana just to mill 4 cards.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so D.
I think D. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
We got Nefarious Imp up next. This is 2 and a black for a 2/1 flyer, and one or more permanents leaves the battlefield. You control. Scry 1.
3-mana 2/1 flyer. We were just talking about this.
Yeah.
Not great 15 years ago. Not great today. Whenever 1 or more permanents you control leave the battlefield, scry 1. That's a thing, but I think this is like a D+.
Yeah, it's not terrible. Like, if you scry a few times off this while you're getting in some evasive hits, it's a decent card, but I wouldn't be too into it or not too excited about it. So yeah, D+ is good.
Here it is. Vampire Spawn. 2 and a black for a 2/3 vampire. When it ETBs, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life.
It's the one that started it all with
so
maybe
true.
draining is good.
Yeah.
So this is, I think AFR was one of the first formats where 17 lands had a lot of data for it, and people went, oh man, Vampire Spawn's doing really well in the data. What's going on there? And we kind of just realized, yeah, like a cheap creature that drains your opponent for 2 is just pretty darn good. And I don't think too much changes in this format. Maybe there's things that are going on a little bit bigger and more complex than just a 3-mana 2/3 drain 2. I'm still going to start pretty high on this card. It was very good in AFR. Like, when I have to say good, it was one of the top black commons in a set with good black commons. So
Correct.
I think I'm just going to start this as a B-.
All right, cool. Yeah,
Yep.
I'll join you at
It's
B-.
so solid.
Seems good to me.
All right, next up, we've got Chain Devil. 4 mana, 3 and a black for a 4/2. It has the ability Animate Chains, and it says, when Chain Devil enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a non-token creature.
I mean, non-token is good text here, but these each player sack a thing effects are not good.
Yeah, they're a little bit tricky to set up.
Fleshbag Marauders, like the OG, like 2 and a
Right.
black 3/1 ETBs, each player sacks a thing. Like, sure, if you have a Shambling Gas and your opponent doesn't, you're probably getting better value than they are, but like then you're left with a 4-mana 4/2, so who cares?
Right, exactly. It's like you can set it up where you get a little bit of small ball value, but then it's like at the end of the day, maybe you traded a worse creature for their better creature, and now you have a 4-mana 4/2. So not that exciting. I would give this a D.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, next up, we've got another great reprint for black, Grim Bounty. 2 black for a sorcery, destroy target creature or planeswalker, create a treasure token.
I talk a lot on my stream and on my podcast about how we were just talking about how we're like murder, whatever. I talk a lot about how the best removal spells are the ones that are a cut above, are the ones that generate a resource of some kind, either to gain you life or to give you a treasure in this case, or something else. And even though 4-mana sorcery speed removal spell doesn't sound that exciting, the treasure is a big deal because ramping you or just fixing your colors, cashing it in for a card with Deadliest Speed or Skullport Merchant, that is really, really nice. So generally we're not so stoked about sorcery speed 4-mana removal, but this one is a cut above.
Yeah, I think this is another. This could just be a B. I'm gonna start B minus.
Yeah, I would start there as well.
Cool.
Next up, we got Manticore. This is another reprint. 3 and a black for a 2/1 flash flyer. This is when Manticore enters the battlefield, destroy target creature and opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn.
No.
No, it's just a little bit too, again, a little too finicky, hard to set up. 4-mana 2/1 flash flyer is not a very good deal. When you really get them, you get them, but it's pretty hard to set up something.
You don't really ever get them because, like, all you're left with is just a. I mean, it's not. A 2/1 flyer is fine, but it's not.
So when I say you get them, it's like you attack your spawn, your vampire spawn into their vampire spawn, like a 2/3 into a 2/3. And it's like,
sure,
gotcha,
sure, gotcha, yeah.
And then it's like, okay, that felt pretty good. But when it's just like, all right, my small creature attacked into yours, and I finish it off, my creature died. Yeah, you don't feel that good about that. So again, this is another D.
Yeah, I think so too. Oh man, black started off so hot, and now it's here. Okay, next up we got Hook Horror. So it's 4 and a black for a 3/3 horror, and it has Molting Exoskeleton, which means when it dies, it perpetually gets -1/-1. Then if that card's toughness is 1 or greater, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So this has double persist.
Yeah, very interesting. And if you could ever buff it again with maybe a boon, right? You can even bring it back multiple times, like
interesting.
Four,
have we seen any boons that give +1/+1 counters?
There is. I know there's one in green. I think we might have seen one in. Oh, maybe we didn't see one in white, but I know in other colors there is. So, how do you like this boons aside? If it's just like a
5-mana 3/3 that dies into a 2/2 that dies into a 1/1.
It's a really good thing.
But you can never. But then it's just dead. Like, because it's a 0/0, right? Perpetual means that then you can't then like get it back from the yard and do it all over again. It's like
right, which is not that big of a deal. I think
I kind of like it. I don't know.
It's also 3 sacrifice triggers. If you have good things to sacrifice to. It's 5 mana, but I think this has got enough going on that I think it's just, for a 5-mana card with no ETB, I think it's like a C.
I think so too.
Yeah, I like it.
I could even see it being a C+.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to start at C, but I think I agree.
Cool.
All right, we got Summon Undead next. It's a 5 mana, 4 and a black sorcery. You may mill 3 cards, then return a creature card from your battlefield to the graveyard.
Strike that, reverse it. From your graveyard to the battlefield.
Oh, sorry, yeah. That would be a very bad card.
You may mill 3 cards, but then
sacrifice.
You're going to take a creature right from the battlefield out of the graveyard.
Thank you.
I know is what I say to this.
Yeah, these 5-mana reanimation spells, unless there's something, cycling to get a big creature into the graveyard early. Now, there are pretty big dragons in the set. If there's like some way to, you reanimate your big dragon, or you have a way to discard it. There's not very many ways to naturally do that. There is the self-mill in this, of course, but generally these are not, the most amazing cards. If you have, the higher the card quality of your creatures are, the more it pushes me a little bit to play this card. But overall, it's not a card you should be excited about.
Yeah, I guess we didn't see any of what we normally see in black as like, the 3 mana, get 2 creatures back to your hand type deal. So whatever. But yeah, I'm going to go D on Summon Undead.
Right. Also worth noting, something I didn't mention before is that all these black cards, these expensive black cards, get slightly better just because of treasure, right?
Sure.
You're going to be able to cast them a little bit earlier. So just something to note. All right, next up we got Baleful Beholder. This is a 4 black 6/5, and it says when Baleful Beholder enters the battlefield, you choose one. Either anti-cloned magic, which is each opponent sacrifices an enchantment, or Fear Ray. Creatures you control gain menace until end of turn.
I remember being surprised by this card.
Yeah, totally. It was a card where I was like, yeah, it's not the worst if I have to play
like you unlock your thing from a minimus containment. Now, obviously, again, the presence, no, I'm not talking about containment. I'm talking about the absence of class enchantments.
Yes,
does make this worse, because one of the reasons this was impressive was you got to, your opponent has pumped all this mana into this enchantment, and you go, she gone. But then also, again, we're talking about these modal things, like the Menace, so you've got that one thing that might be good. And then Menace just also sometimes pushes a ton of damage. Plus, this is a big body. I'm not saying, this is all to say this is just it's a 6 mana common. This is not anything that's exciting. You don't need to pick it highly. It's like a D+. But I do think this looks like garbage, and it's not garbage.
Right. You're trying to talk up a 6 mana card,
right?
Where normally that would be a card we're like, not that impressed with, right? Yeah. I agree. It is a card that it was more impressive than it looked. It's still not like, I want multiple Baleful Beholders.
No.
You are fine to play a copy.
You are not fine to play a copy of the next card, which is Eyes of the Beholder. 4 black for an instant. Target creature gets -11/-11 until end of turn.
Yeah, there's just going to be better interaction spells, cheaper interaction spells. So here's the thing. Like, even when you don't pick up any other interaction spells, it's kind of tempting to be like, I guess I have to put something in my deck to destroy. I think, no, just put a creature in. Like, you're going to be better if you just put a creature in a lot of the time. Just put a good creature in instead of this.
Yeah. I'm going to go D on this.
Yeah, I'm just going to say F. I'm just saying, never put this card in your deck.
Yeah, that seems fine. All right, uncommons. We have Mind Spike. Single black sorcery. Target opponent reveals each non-creature, non-land card in their hand. That's interesting. They don't reveal their hand. They only reveal the cards this can hit. You choose a card revealed this way. That player discards that card. You lose 2 life. If they didn't reveal a card this way, you draw a card. Okay,
cool.
So it's duress.
Yep.
But you only see the cards that are duressable. You lose 2 life no matter what. And if there's nothing duressable, then it's just 1 mana, lose 2 life, draw a card.
Yeah. So it's, often the advice is don't play duress and limited, but this one has a little bit of upside.
That's actually pretty darn good for limited, right? Because as long as the 2 life doesn't wreck you that hard, which seems like it won't. It might, but it seems like it won't. This does mitigate that, because either you're snagging a removal spell from them, right? Because it's likely what their non-creature, non-land cards are going to be.
Right.
And if they don't have, so if they have that, great, you get to take it. And if not, you get to draw a card.
Yeah. Also, like, even against an opponent who tends to have a lot of instants and sorcerers, maybe it's game 2 and you brought it in, where generally that's still not a good idea. Most of the time, even in best of 3, like, this just cycles in the late game for 2 life, which isn't great, but it's not bad either. So I don't love this card, but I think you could play it. Like, I think just like we were talking about, you were talking about I'm trying to talk, the audience up here from a 6 mana card. Like, it's not amazing, but you could put it in your deck. I think similar here. Duress is not a great effect, but you could put this in your deck and it wouldn't be the worst.
Yeah, I think so. I'll go like D+.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
All right, next up we got Ghost Lantern. This is a 1 black mana equipment. It's an adventure as well. So the non-adventure side is the equipment says, whenever a creature you control dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on the equipped creature and equip 1. Then Spirit Bind is the instant, the 2 mana side, 1 in a black. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So it regrows a creature.
I like this a lot.
This is cool. Yeah.
Because even though this is cheap, you just don't run this out. Like, unlike the other adventures, some of the adventures we've said, like, if you can just cast this as the creature, do so. I think it's likely play pattern I see with this card is you're going to be developing your board first. You're going to trade off something. Then you can get that back with this, with Bind Spirit. And then you cast Ghost Lantern. And then you have an equipment that just says, it pairs well with, like, the sacrifice stuff. It doesn't do a ton. I think you're more playing it for, like, this is Raise Dead with upside. Raise Dead plus, right?
Right.
So, I don't know. I'm kind of into this. Like, into this in like, a C- sense.
Yeah, I think if you think about you think of this as a Raise Dead with upside, right? Just, like, buy a creature back from your graveyard, and you get the Lantern as a bonus. Just like the reanimation spell, you're going to be more likely to put this card in your deck if you have good creatures to get back, maybe some ETB creatures, something like that.
Or if you have, like, a lot of sack outlets. Like, if you're doing, like, a Skullport merchant-y, grindy value thing, then you're interested in, like, I sack this thing, and then whatever, and then grow this other thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it is a sort of like a finicky card, but it's a cool card. I think I'm going to start at a C, but...
Okay, cool.
Yeah. What do you want to give it?
I gave it C-.
Okay, cool, yeah.
Next is Bonecaller Cleric. 1 on a black, 2/1. And it has the activated ability 3 in a black. Sack it. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery.
So I like this better than the 5 mana reanimation spell because it comes on a 2/1.
I actually like this better than the last card we saw too. Like,
yeah, me too. Yeah.
It's nice. Again, it's nice that this has, if you think about this as a split card, that, like, this is either your 2 mana 2/1, which isn't great, but when you need to play something on turn 2 in the early stages, it's that. And then in the later game, because you don't even have to tap this, right? You can just, the turn you cast this, if you have 6 mana, you just get to play this, sack it, and get your best thing out of your yard.
Yeah, I think that it's probably worse than the common cheap black creatures we saw with the 2/1 Death Touch and the Sepulchre Ghoul, but it's still a solid card. I think this is a C.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, we got a reprint here. Cast Down, not an AFR reprint though. Cast Down is a 1 in a black instant. Destroy target non-legendary creature.
Yeah, this seems pretty darn good.
Yeah, it's
It's
unthinkable.
interesting. So this was in Dominaria, where like
Right.
a lot of the things you needed to kill were legendary, and so this wasn't as insane. But here, I'm not really seeing that. I mean,
Well,
the signpost uncommons are all legendary, right?
so there is some concern. Like the signposts and commons are all legendary. All of the specialized cards are legendary, and
Okay,
since this is a port from Commander Legends in some way, a lot of the rares are legendary.
Sure,
right?
sure.
So it's still very good. You just have to know, like, just with any of these cards, like what was the power word kill. Sometimes it's not going to kill the best of the best thing, but a 2-mana interaction spell that can so cheaply blow out a combat trick, just kill a 4-mana creature. They play a 4-drop. You go, nope, that thing's dead. That's still very, very good. So you're gonna, it's very tempting in game, or very like sometimes you have those moments where it's like, ah, man, is cast down that good? I can't kill the thing I want. Yes, there's gonna be some spots where it doesn't do the thing you want it to do. It's still a very good card, though.
Yep. I'll go. I think so. I think important to put it in context with the other removal spells we've seen. So Grim Bounty and the 3-mana -2/-2 perpetual, and then -1/-1 every turn. Where does that stack up? So Grim Bounty, I think, better of the two common removal spells.
Yes.
Yeah. So Grim Bounty versus Cast Down.
I think
Cast Down wins.
I think so too. So it's kind of interesting, right? Because they're kind of competing on different axes. Like
Correct.
The two things I like in a removal spell is it's hyper efficient, like Cast Down, or generates value, like Grim Bounty. And those are kind of different things, right? It's a little bit appley and orangey. So I don't know, hard to say where it lands. I like them both for different reasons.
Yeah. I agree. I'm going to give the nod to cheaper and single pipped.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I agree. So I think I'll go B on Cast Down.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Next, we've got Grim Wanderer. 1 and a black for a 5/3 Goblin Warlock with Flash, but you can only cast it if a creature died this turn.
It was never exactly what you wanted it to be. You know, it's hard to turn this on in the early game, even with the sacrifice energies. It's not that hard, or not that easy to enable. The best thing that this card did is when your opponent was trying to attack you, they killed your 2-drop or whatever, and you went, oh, okay, I can flash this in and get to eat their 2/2. That was when it was very much at its best.
Four was really the magic number in AFR, and now who knows what it'll be here, but we will have Dragon's Fire again when we get to red, the 2-mana deal 3. We will have Hobgoblin Captain again, the 2-mana 3/1 with Pack Tactics. So jumping through hoops for a 3 toughness creature wasn't actually that much of a payoff.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's an okay card. Like I think the more sacrifice stuff you have where you can actually cast this, where it's not just stuck in your hand, the more I'm willing to play it. Generally, it's just a C, though.
Yeah, I think so, too.
All right, next up, we've got Grave Choice. 2 and a black for an instant. Target opponent sacrifices a non-token creature. If that creature had mana value 2 or less, you conjure a duplicate of it into your hand. And that duplicate gains the text where you can cast it with any color of mana.
Okay, this is really interesting. So it's an edict effect, and these are generally not good and limited because, the later, you're very rarely going to nab a thing that matters. Now, there's a lot of things working for this card. One is that they can't sack a token.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to get a real card from this.
Mm-hmm.
And if they sack something that's 2 mana or 1 mana, then you get that. Then you get to cast that. So you're going to 1-for-1 with a 3 mana value creature or greater, and then you're going to get some additional value otherwise.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to make edicts, which are classically very unplayable, to a more playable card.
Mm-hmm.
It solves some of the problems of an edict, but it still doesn't solve all the problems. Like, one of the other big problems is it just doesn't, the thing that's attacking you for lethal, well, they can just not sack that thing. They can sack the blocked thing. Or the thing that they're casting a combat truck on, well, they're just not going to sack that thing. So it's a little bit better than your normal edict. I still don't think it's a great card, though.
No, I think, and yeah, I agree. Worse than we just did the rundown of how do these removal spells stack up against each other? Well, they all outclass Grave Choice.
Yes, agree. So I think this is probably like a D+. I wouldn't say it's a great card.
I think I'll go a little higher. I think this is like role player-y. I'll go C-.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right.
Next up, we got Sigil of Merkel. This is a 3-mana, 2 and a black enchantment. The beginning of combat on your turn, you mill a card. When you do, if there are 4 or more creatures in your graveyard, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and it gains death touch. So if you can set this up where you have 4 creatures in your grave, it becomes a fight rigging, a fight rigging where your thing gets death touch.
It's Dormant Grove.
Yeah, Dormant Grove is probably a better comparison. Yeah.
This is just my every set. I'm gonna compare some card to Dormant Grove. 4 or more creature cards is a lot.
It is, yep.
That's like, how deep in your deck do you have to be? 20 cards deep, like through like natural, like you've drawn stuff, plus you've done some self-mill. Like I'm not. This is not me. Like this is not me not understanding like whatever City's Blessing or other things. Like
yeah,
this is just a lot. 4 creatures is a lot.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty high. Like it's a big hoop to jump through, right? We've been talking about hoops all this set review. I think it's a pretty big hoop to jump through.
I'm going F on Sigil. I'm not into this. This doesn't affect the board at all. It doesn't do anything until you have 4 creatures.
But would you say that about Fight Ring or Dormant Grove? Like,
no,
I'm mostly looking at this. Like,
hold on.
Yeah, good.
This doesn't do a dang thing
when you play it
until you have 4.
Right.
Yeah, this is comparing this to saying when I say that about Fight Rigging. Of course not. Fight Rigging is nuts.
Yeah, because it always comes down on 3 and always
puts a counter on your 2-drop. This comes down on turn 3 and does nothing for like 8 turns.
Also, you know what the thing is, when a color is good, like black looks to be very good, the lesser cards get pushed off to get to the deck. I just never have to play this, right? Mm-hmm. With like a worse color, it's like, yeah, maybe you have to play find some spots where it's like, oh, this card is good in my deck. You're just not gonna have to do that with black, I don't think. So yeah, I'll join you on F. I just don't think this card's good. You're right.
That's interesting design space. Someone in chat is saying they needed to put X zeros with ETBs to enable this mechanic.
That's funny.
Like a thing with a spell attack, like a creature that's a 0 toughness creature that has like a sorcery speed spell effect. Give me that.
Yeah.
Give me that, B-Del. What are you on F with me here on Sigil?
Yeah, I'm hesitant to do so because the payoff is pretty good, but I'll join you there.
All right. Next we've got Skullport Merchant. 2 and a black, 2 and a black, 1/4 dwarf citizen. When it enters the battlefield, you make a treasure token. Pay 1 and a black, sack another creature or treasure to draw a card.
Back with new art too.
I don't. I mean, whatever. It's the same, but it's like the same. It is the same merchant.
Yeah, that's funny.
But just from a different angle. Yeah.
This card's great. Like just straight up, this card's fantastic. It blocks. It turns your treasure into cards. Turns your creatures into cards if they're either outclassed or getting targeted by a removal spell. Can't say enough good things. I think this is just to be a B+. Obviously, there's the steal and sack stuff too. So
yeah.
Yep.
This I like almost want to give it an A-, but that's not.
Honestly, that's not crazy.
It's not crazy. It's not crazy like on efficiency and synergy, but like it doesn't actually do what I think A grade cards should do, which is like, I mean, I guess it in the sense of must be dealt with or you win the game. It kind of does do that.
I think about these days A cards as just like I not to just like default to the data, but I honestly just think like how often does this card win me the game? And a lot of the time, Skullport Merchant does when you come down on 3. It does.
Yeah.
So yep. I'm gonna give this an A-. I'm into it.
All right, we're back. We're back to A-. I'm gonna go A- as well.
All right, nice. Next up, we've got Ambition's Cause. This is an old one.
Yeah, this is from like Portal, right?
Yeah, it's a Portal reprint, I think. Sorcery, 3 and a black. You draw 3 cards and you lose 3 life.
I mean, I don't particularly care. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah. So one of the things to think about with the card draw spell is the more good cheap cards you have in your deck or in your color, the better it gets. So because black has a lot of good cheap cards, good cheap interaction, good cheap creatures, just good mana production too, which really matters for a card draw spell. I like this a lot better than just a 4 mana draw 3 in blue, for example. Mm-hmm. So the downside.
Yeah, I think I also want to say giving card draw to colors that don't get it is also interesting, or card advantage to colors that don't often get it. So that's why I like cantripping or this like harmonize as a green 4 mana draw 3 is so like, whoa, because like green doesn't get that. Like how is mono green and cube going to refill its hand? Well, with harmonize, right? So
sure, yeah.
That's why the effect matters. Like what you're talking about in terms of it varies in terms of what color it is.
That being said,
yeah,
lose 3 life is not exactly what you want to see on your card draw spell. That's kind of a non-bow generally when you gain life on your card draw spell, so you have time to cast your cards, not decrease your the length of the game. But I think if you don't have the Skullport Merchants, if you don't have the Deadly Disputes, this is a fine thing to cast if you do have good cheap interaction and good cheap creatures, especially the defensive ones like Shambling Gas. So again, I'm not going to be high on this. I'm higher on this than the blue card draw, so I'm going to give it like a D+.
Sure. I'm just going to go
Yeah.
D, but I
Right.
appreciate the D plus here. Next up, we've got Dryder. This card is also bad. 4 black for a 4/3 elf spider with reach. And when it deals combat damage to a player, like it could ever do that in a million years, you make a 2/1 black spider creature token with menace and reach.
So we should probably explain this in a little bit because I know this is a card that, at least in my experience from in my own Twitch chat, and I saw in other people's Twitch chat, people are like, "Wait, isn't this a good card? Like it's a reach creature, it makes a good creature when it attacks or when it deals combat damage. Like, what's bad about this?"
So what's bad about this is a couple of things. If this were a 3/4, this would be way better. Way better for a couple of reasons. We've already talked about, so a 5 mana 4/3 is a bad stat line, right? You're not, again, if we think about vanilla test, you're generally expecting to pay about you're expecting to pay about half the mana for the power plus toughness. So right, a 5 mana for a 5/5 or a 4/6. Now sometimes a little lower, 5 mana for a 4/4 or 5 mana for a 3/5 or 3/6, whatever, but somewhere in that range. So 5 mana for 7 points of power and toughness is pretty low in terms of what you're getting for the rate. Reach doesn't, it sort of makes up for that because you're getting a keyword, but not really, because this doesn't block very well with the imbalanced 4 power 3 toughness. Again, thinking about why flipping it is better, 2 reasons. 1, 3 toughness trades with Dragon's Fire and Hobgoblin Captain and whatever other 2 mana 3/1s that we've talked about, so that's pretty embarrassing. And 2, this is not unblockable with Thieves Tools. That's the big offensive thing, is that like this has an on-hit effect, and there was like an on-hit thing to sneak it through, and it's like, oh no, but you can't now with this one.
You know, if you were to say to me, Ethan, Alex, can you add anything to the why Dryder's bad? That wouldn't have been where I went, but I love that that's where you went. Yeah, this is just not a very good card.
This card is terrible. Yeah. This is a D.
Yeah, I agree. All right,
look,
so
I'm here. Look, all I'm thinking about is Thieves Tools good with this card? Every card we see, I go, oh, that's pretty good with Thieves Tools.
Well, it's funny you say that, Ethan, because we have one here.
Oh,
Oh, actually, no, it actually probably won't work. So we've got the first of our specialized cards here in black. So this is Ceravoc the Usurper. This is 4 mana, 3 and a black for a 3/3. Its specialized cost is 3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +X/+O until end of turn, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. So playing off this, put stuff in my graveyard theme once again. How do we like that?
So it's a Hill Giant with... I actually do like that it affects combat the turn it comes into play, potentially.
Yep, I like that too. So, not amazing, but solid.
I think this front side is probably C.
Yeah, I think so too. The backside turns into the black backside, the mono black side, 4/4. When this creature specializes, you seek a creature card and put it into your graveyard. Then conjure 2 duplicates of it in your graveyard. So we were just talking about, I wish there was a way to get multiple, kind of fake creatures into the graveyard. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +X/+O until the end of the turn, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. So it's got that front side text.
I assume it's going to have the front side text
on
all of them. Okay, so let's keep rolling on here. So the black-white version is a 4/4 with first strike, and it gives +X/+O and first strike to a creature at the beginning of combat, where X is still the number of creature cards.
Yep, the blue one is target creature you control gets a +X/+O until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures, and it also counts instants and sorceries in your graveyard. It's 4/4.
The black-red version is 5 mana for the 4/4 with menace, and target creature gets +X/+O and menace at the beginning of combat.
And the green one, the creature gets trample and +X/+O, where X is the number of creatures in your grave.
The mono black one has to be the best one, right?
I feel like it. Yeah, I think first strike just means your creature's not going to get blocked as easily. The blue one, you get a little bit bigger, I guess. The menace one, trample. Yeah, I mean they're all fine, but I think the big hurdle to jump through or hoop to jump through is really getting the things in your graveyard and getting 3 things in your graveyard, not just to turn on this, but turn on any other black, green graveyard matter stuff. That is pretty nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm still just gonna land. Maybe it's a C+ with all the specialized stuff.
Yeah, I'm in for that too. What's the specialized cost again? 3.
3.
Yeah, that's not too bad. I keep going back to the whole. You have to discard a card on these, right? So
but you can discard a land. Like
sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You're not specializing until the late game anyway.
On
right?
most of these, yeah, that's fair.
So
okay, so I think it's still just a C+ then.
Yeah, I think C+ seems fair. Okay, and the other black specialized card we have is Veconia, Night Singer's Disciple. It's 1 and a black for a 2/3 legendary creature elf cleric, and it has the ability 1. exile target card from a graveyard. Oof, black opponents beware. So 2 mana, 2/3 is like, that's good stats, whatever, and like an ability that might be relevant or whatever. And then it has a specialized cost of 2. The mono black side is Veconia, Disciple of Blood. It's a 3/4. And it says, when this creature specializes, conjure a duplicate of target creature card exiled with this creature into your hand. The duplicate perpetually gains. You may spend mana as though or mana of any color to cast the spell. And when this creature enters the battlefield, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So it turns it into a vampire spawn. And then it again retains the 1 exile target card from a graveyard.
Yep. And the white version, if the card you exile or you choose to conjure the duplicate of is a 3 mana value or less creature, it puts up right onto the battlefield instead of your hand, and of course it retains the you can exile a card from a graveyard text.
The blue black version lets you you get to you get to choose up to 1 target creature card and up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from among cards exiled with it, and conjure a duplicate of each into your hand.
And then the red version, it says conjure a duplicate of the card and perpetually gains +1/+0 and haste. That's the red little difference here.
Okay, and the green one conjures it and it perpetually gets +2/+2 and gains. You may spend mana as though or mana of any color to cast a spell. It's very tough to. There's a lot of text on these. It's very tough on the fly to figure out how to shortcut it.
Yeah, I like to zoom in on what changed
right,
here.
What's changed? Okay, so the green one +2/+2. Just to recap, green one +2/+2. Red one +1/+0 and haste. Blue one, you get a creature and an instant or sorcery. White one lets you put it into the battlefield immediately if it's 3 mana value or less. And the mono black one just lets you. It's just the
drain.
regular.
It gives you a drain effect. It turns into a spawn.
Oh, it turns into a spawn. That's it. Just the drain effect. Okay.
This is much better than the ones we've seen so far, right? This has to be the best one we've seen, I think.
This I still think I like the Banisher Priest one better than this.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. Better than the blue ones.
Better than the blue ones. That really says a lot.
Yeah, this is just so I've been saying, you have to discard a card, but you get your card back, and in the case of the blue one, you get 2 cards back if you've exiled an instant or sorcerer, and the specialized cost is so cheap, 2 mana.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 2 mana, 2/3, and then all this. It's just good. This is
incidental grave hate too. This is a good one. I would even put this up to B+. I think this is the best one we've seen so far. Even better than the white one potentially.
No, I just said it wasn't.
Oh, and then I agreed with you, didn't I?
Yeah.
I don't know. They're in the same class, but I like this one a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it is a 2 mana, 2/3. It's quite good. All right, that's going to take us on to red. First common in red is Kobold Warcaller. Single red for a 1/1, and it has tap. Choose a creature card in your hand. It perpetually gains haste. This is interesting because I was like, isn't this just like this? This is just the same, but they're doing perpetually for like whatever these kind of. We've seen these effects multiple times. These red 1 mana 1/1s that tap to give things haste, right, until end of turn. Except that, like, let's say you've got whatever, you can just use this to every turn. You got a 5-drop and a 6-drop in your hand. You're like, all right, that's gonna get haste and that whatever and. I don't know. That's actually still not different. This is
no, it is a little bit different. You're right. You can kind of stockpile it, and also that means that this 1/1 can attack some amount of the 2. Like that is a little bonus too, right?
Right. So, yeah. The turn you cast the thing that you've already given haste to, then it's gonna attack.
Right. Exactly.
Sure.
So what? How do we like these? We've seen these. It hasn't been a while actually.
I don't know. It's hard putting at to have no context really for what red is trying to do. It's hard to know how good this is. But if this is not a very aggressively supported format or whatever, this won't be very good.
Yeah, and if you have a lot of creatures that are just naturally good attackers or are pretty big, this pairs well with green creatures just hasting out like a 4/4 or something like that. It's kind of nice. But these cards tend to be a bit better than they look, or than people give them credit for. Giving haste to your whole team at the cost of just having this like 1-drop. Like sometimes there's cards that are like 3 mana enchantment, give your creatures haste. That's not good. But when this comes down on 1, everything past that has haste. It's a little bit better. It's still not amazing, but if you're like a low to the ground aggro deck, you're gonna appreciate this card.
That's interesting. Yeah, someone in chat is saying that it's good with double team, which I would say that's true.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like that too.
Okay, that's giving me some stuff to work with here. I'm gonna go C- here on the Warcaller to start.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to be. I could see it going either way, either direction, right? It's a little bit up or a little bit down, but good place to start.
All right, how about this one?
All right, next one we got Dueling Rapier. This is a red mana for an equipment of the reprint. Flash, And it says, when the rapier enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. Equip creature gets +2/+0, and the equip cost, it's 4.
Right. So the big joke here in AFR, as Alex likes to say, the joke, was that when we've alluded to it, we'll talk about it in a second, the Hobgoblin Captain, 2 mana, 3/1 with Pack Tactics, it got first strike. Well, he's, if your opponent's trying to line up some good block with that, and you flash in the rapier and +2/+0, great. Or just whatever. You get to flash this in, win a combat, and then you're left with a clunky, but albeit you are left with a piece of equipment to re-equip with. All that said, this isn't like anything to write home about.
No, I think this card's just bad. To be
You're
honest.
just out on equipment. Like any piece of equipment, you're just done.
I'm not done on it. I just think that at least the equipment in this set, most of it is just not very
If
good.
it's not short sword, you're out.
Yeah, exactly. Short sword's a bit different.
Yeah.
I just think that we saw how this card performed last time. It was not good.
No.
I don't have reason to believe it will be better just yet. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm gonna give this an F.
I'm with you. F.
Okay.
F seems aggressive, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up is Ganassi Rabble Rouser. 1 in a red for a 1/3 elemental shaman with double team. And you can pay 1 in a red. Ooh, creatures you control named Ganassi Rabble Rouser get +1/+0 until end of turn.
Yeah. So
interesting.
I like it.
I like it too. So we've seen sort of catch 'em all things like this. I can't remember it, but it was a 1 in a red 2/2 that had this effect, but it didn't have double team. But it was in a core set where you gave all of the copies of like Pack Mastiff, I want to say is what it's called.
Yeah, Pack Mastiff. That's it. Yeah.
So what's nice about this is that it comes with a buddy when you attack with it. But then also, like, you can also draft, like, 2 of these or 3 of these, right? And they're not, like, they don't each, like, once you search up one, they don't all lose double team. It's just, like, the pair of them, right?
Yep.
So, kind of cute.
Yeah, and it's going to have a reasonable tag most of the time. Like, 3 toughness doesn't get just eaten until a little bit later in the game. So, yeah, you're going to have an attack on turn 3 a lot of the time and get your creature, get your card, play a 3-drop, play the other Rabble Rouser later. And then, on turn 6 or whatever, you pump both of them, you have 2/3 power attackers. So this is just a solid little 2-drop. It's not the most explosive 2-drop. Like, if you're just, like, low to the ground, boom, 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 it doesn't hit that hard. But, if you're a little bit in the middle of the curve as a red aggressive deck, like, it's a good card that pushes through some damage and then draws you a card. So I think this just amounts to a C.
I agree. I'll go C on the Rabble Rouser.
Here's my my preview card. We've got Unexpected Allies here. 1 in red for a sorcery. Target non-token creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains double team until end of turn. It also gains first strike until end of turn if it had the same name as a creature you control or a creature in your graveyard.
So, okay, so it gains double team. Oh, I see. So this is to, like, let's say you have double teamed already and one thing went to the yard, then you'll get first strike on this thing. I mean, or I guess if you have, have 2 copies of a thing or whatever.
Yeah, so the base use is you're drawing an additional copy of something you have in the battlefield, but also that thing gets, a bit of a power boost for the turn. It doesn't help win a combat or anything, but it does push some damage, and you draw an additional creature.
I mean, I hate to tell you, but I really don't like this card.
Not a fan. Yeah. I think now I've seen the context of the whole stat. I'm not too into it either.
Well, it's just so hard to get behind a card like this. That's it's just a straight up F whenever you're behind. And I know some folks think that you're always behind in a game of Magic. Not true, but you are sometimes behind in a game of Magic.
Well, just like there's folks who always think you're always like some folks think you're always behind, and some folks think you're never behind. So
yeah, right.
Yeah.
The truth is somewhere in the middle, and so then that means like half the time, not half the time, because it's not equal, right? Like deck context matters, etc. But it's just tough. It's a tough sell for a card to be an F some percentage of the time.
It's kind of aspirational in the sense that like you can definitely imagine like some really good creatures you could target, like even just an evasive creature or just like one of your better creatures in your deck. Getting an additional copy of that is really nice, but at the same time, yeah, you're paying.
I mean, you said it. It's aspirational.
Yeah, aspirational. Yeah. Well, aspirational doesn't mean bad, I guess, right? But
no, yeah, something to aspire to can be.
I'm gonna give this a D. Are you gonna go F?
I'm going D. No,
okay.
I mean, I think in like your most aggressive decks, you'll play this for sure.
Yeah, almost broke my heart there, Ethan.
sorry. Next up, Dragon's Fire. 1 in a red for an instant. A lot of text on this card that basically says it deals 3. to a creature or planeswalker. But if you, as an additional cost to cast it, you may reveal a dragon card from your hand or choose a dragon you control, in which case instead of dealing 3 to that thing, it'll deal damage equal to the power of the dragon you revealed or controlled at the time of casting the spell.
Yep. 2 mana deal 3s are always good. Like it's hard to, I can't remember, I could think of something if I really thought about it, but it's very rare for 2 mana red deal 3 at instant to be a bad card.
How quickly we forget Kami's Flare. How quickly we forget.
Oh, I ended up liking Kami's Flare at the end of the format when red was good. But yeah, I mean, this is a good card.
This is a very good card. Yeah, I think this is a B.
Yep, agree with that.
Okay.
Also nice against I didn't mention this before, but I was saying blowing out specialized cards. This does blow out specialized cards in a way that a bounce spell doesn't, because there is a point where your opponent goes, all right, 5 mana activate, and it's like, all right.
So specialize is not like morph, right? You can respond to the specialize.
I believe so. Yeah, I think as far as I know, again, this is like, we'll see when it actually comes into practice, but I believe even the rules manager on Twitter said that's how it works.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So next up, we got Hobgoblin Captain, the card we've been talking about. 2 mana, 1 in red for a 3/1. And it's got Pack Tactics. When it attacks, if you attacked with creatures total power 6 or greater, it gets first strike.
Seems less supported, right? I mean, we haven't seen all of red and green yet, which is where the Pack Tactics life ride, but I'd say seems a little less supported this time around. But also not a ton of X1 hate, and part of the like X1 hate thing, this mitigates because first strike solves a lot of the problems that the X1 hate does. It certainly doesn't solve the Shambling Ghast problem,
yeah.
but other problems it does. It solves the Pilgrim's Eye problem or whatever.
Yeah, I was big into this. I remember the trajectory for me was like, oh yeah, this is like such a solid good 2-drop, and then people realized Shambling Ghast was great, and it's like, oh yeah, I just don't want to put this card in my deck anymore. Like, if your opponent ever plays Ghast and you play this, your win rate just like instantly plummets.
That's
so
true.
not to say that.
Are you off this card?
No, I'm not off it. I just think it's I think it is worse than people gave it credit for.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it was like, oh man, you want all the Hobgoblin Captains in the world. No, it wasn't really about that. It's a good card, solid C, but it's not like one of the premium 2-drops or anything.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's fair. Next up, we've got Next up, we got Reckless Barbarian, 1 in a red for 2/2, and you can sack it to add red, and it's got types. It's a dragon barbarian, so a 2-mana dragon.
So this is interesting. You can play a 6-drop as early as turn 4 or 5-drop on turn 3. There's obviously some sort of there's card disadvantage baked into that, but it could be powerful depending on what you're casting just on your 2-mana 2/2 with types.
I mean, give me your honest opinion comparing this to, I don't even know its name. I can't even think of its name, but a Gold Hound.
Sure.
Gold Hound was abysmal. I mean, there are a lot of context-specific things about that card, and as I recall from our set review of SNC, I was low on it. You talked me up on it. I was like, well, you mentioned you saying it does a lot of small things well. It didn't do anything well. Like, I hear what you're saying about the ramp, but you are down mana and card. Like, I mean, I guess you're not down mana because the 2 mana you invested in this, you then recoup by sacrificing this, but like, boy howdy, like it's a tough ask. Your 6-drop has to be really good for me to be excited about being down this card to cast it early.
Yeah, I assume this card isn't actually all that good, right? I think there's going to be like some really nice sequences you could have, but I think it's probably just a very filler 2-drop in general.
Yeah, so like a D?
Yeah, I would say so.
Cool.
All right, next up, you come to a Noel camp. 1 red for an instant. You choose 1. Either intimidate them, up to 2 target creatures can't block this turn, or fend them off. Target creature gets +3/+1 until end of turn.
Now, this is a falter effect I am much less excited about.
Yeah, I mean, the only 2 things is not so great.
Well, and the fact that like both of these are like the same.
Yep.
Like, do you have things that want to mess around in combat? Have I got 2 different modes for you?
Right.
Like,
exactly. Yeah. This is, and +3/+1 just doesn't win a combat often enough. This is not a very good trick. It wasn't good last time, and again, I don't think there's anything that really sells me on it this time. So I'm gonna give this a D-.
Yep, me too. Next is you find some prisoners. 1 in a red instant. Choose 1. You can either blow up an artifact or you get an impulse, except it's for your opponents, or I guess an anticipate, but it's for your opponent's deck. You look at the top. Exile the top 3 cards of their library, you choose 1 of them, and then until the end of your next turn, you may play that card and you can spend mana as though it were mana of any color. So you can get a land and just play it or you can cast a spell in the late game, or you build up an artifact, but all of those are not very good modes.
Oh. Yeah, worth noting, it is a downshift to common, so you'll
Mhm.
have your Shatter more often if that's something you care about. But yeah, this wasn't a particularly good card, so
No.
I think sideboard is probably where I'd go with it.
Sure, yeah, sideboard sounds good. Sideboard says the best of one player. Give me a break.
Giant Fire Beetles. This is a cute little pair of bugs here. We got 2 in a red for a 2/2 menace with double team.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a little interesting card.
I like evasion on my double team card for sure.
Yeah, exactly, because it is able to profitably get in on turn.
Very likely to either just connect or at least trade with a 2/2.
Yep, I'm into it. See,
I kind of want to give this a C+, honestly.
I can see it. Yeah, I think my thought is that it just doesn't hit that hard. Like,
I guess it's pretty abysmal when you're behind. Like,
sure,
like, okay, here's my gray ogre or whatever. But
yeah, I just think it's fine. Yeah, okay. C card.
Cool. Next up, we've got Improvised Weaponry, which is another reprint, 2 in red sorcery, deals 2 damage to any target, and you make a treasure.
Yeah, so this card went from, I remember people thinking like, this isn't so good, to, this is actually pretty good because you kill her 2-drop and you ramp to 4, you can cast a 5-drop the next turn, or spell. This really punishes a lot of cheap creatures. Like, it's kind of funny, not to get into the whole, history here of AFR, but I think people remember that as like 2 drops the format, and it was very much that at the beginning of the format. But as it developed, people realized, people started playing more improvised weaponries. People started playing more shambling gas, just cards that were good against aggro. It actually developed into a format where I was trying to not play a lot of 2 drops because a lot of things got punished by that, and play just enough to get by, and then have stuff up my curve. The 5s and 6s were pretty good, and if we're in that kind of world again, improvised weaponry is totally a fine card. I'm happy to play a copy of it. Just like treasure synergies aside, killer 2-drop and have that resource is a pretty solid card.
I agree.
Yep.
I think this lands in the diminishing returns department to me. Like,
yes, for sure.
The first copy is probably C+ territory, and then subsequent copies get worse. So where do you say C+ on the first one?
I think the first one's a C+. Yeah, I'm into that. Just being able to kill a 2-drop, or like we've seen a decent amount of 2 toughness 3 mana creatures too. So if you ever get to do that, you feel pretty good.
Yeah. Next is Valor Singer. It's 2 in a red for a 2/3, and it says at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn.
Yep, this was another kind of fine card, solid, nothing too special. If you're attacking, makes your pack tactics, I suppose, a little bit easier, but wasn't all that exciting. I ended up being lower on this card than most people. I think I would give this probably a C- myself. But
yeah, I'm in for that on the Valor Singer.
All right, here is our active treason effect. We've got Incessant Provocation. This is 4 mana, 3 in a red. That's big. It's not 3 mana this time. Sorcery. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until end of turn, and it perpetually gains. This creature attacks each turn in the table.
So it's funny coming off of the SNC Alchemy set, where we had the additional active treason that was 3 mana.
Yeah, traumatic prank.
Thank you. The creature gained, you lost a life each turn, and it couldn't block, right?
Right. Yep.
Which is, doesn't have the lose life text, but creature attacks each combat if able is effectively
can't block.
Right?
Yeah, can't block. It's true.
If it has vigilance, it can, but
sure.
Otherwise, it can't. So it's not like this has to be steal and sack, right? You can steal the thing, and then you're like, all right, and now that thing can never block or whatever. I still don't think so what are our sack outlets? Dispute and Merchant? Is that it? Oh, and Ghoul.
And Ghoul. So most of them are here, right? We're only missing, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2. And those are the good ones.
And it's free 2 mana. That's pretty cheap. I still think this is going to be good. It's not going to be price of loyalty good, maybe, but it's still going to be pretty good.
I think so too. Yeah, I think this is a card that, honestly, we were talking about traumatic prank. That was just a good red aggressive card. I didn't even need sacrifice stuff. That was just a solid card in my red beatdown decks. And I think this kind of is in that same vein. You're kind of happy to cast this on turn 4 if you don't have anything else to do. Just like, okay, still your 3-drop, bashing for a bit more, and then that thing is out of the combat equation.
It could also be like a delayed removal spell where you're like, whatever. It's a thing that, I don't know what the situation is where this would be true, but it's a thing that you're like, all right, steal that, attack with it, and now on your next turn, I have a thing that can profitably block your creature.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, Is it C+?
Yeah, I want to start B- just because I think that the synergies still do exist.
Yeah,
there,
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Okay, next up is Jaded Sellsword, 3 and a red for a 4/3 Dragon Warrior. It's interesting that this being a dragon. I mean, last time around, this being a dragon was basically just for Dragon's Fire. But now we've got quite a few other things that care about it, so that's cute. And when it enters the battlefield, if mana from a treasure was spent to cast it, it gains first strike and haste until end of turn.
Yeah, it reads a little bit better than it is, I think, right? You're like, ooh, like I can cast this as a hasty thing. But then you cast your hasty thing and you spend your treasure, you put a 3-mana 4/3 in your deck, which is not that exciting. It got in for a hit, and then it's just like, all right, well now let's just trade.
The dream curve is Kalane on 2 into this. Attack
exactly.
With a 5/4 hasty first striker. And even that sometimes isn't all that good.
Yeah, so I would just give this a D. If you've got some dragon synergies, maybe that goes up a little bit, but
sure.
Yeah.
Next how about this one?
Yeah, Unexpected Windfall. 2 red for an instant. Its initial cost to cast a spell, discard a card. You make 2 treasures and draw 2 cards.
Big score.
A lot lately, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think also, we'll know a little bit more probably when we do rares and mythics tomorrow, like how busto those cards are, how much you're trying to dig towards them and splash them, etc. My guess is this is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that there's a lot of the good 6-drops that this card played well with, like the Earth Cult Elemental, big old 6/6 red creature, and Gorgeous George, the 7/6 game 3, are still in this set. And of course, like you said, some big rares too. So not a card that you're just gonna be like, oh, I put this in every red deck. It's not for your aggressive red decks, but if you're maybe red black deck with a little slower, uses for the treasure, have some top end. Maybe you're a green red deck. Yeah, this is a pretty solid card. So still a C there, but it's a role player for sure.
Next up, we have Young Red Dragon. So it's 3 red for a 3/2 dragon. It is flying and it can't block. And it has an adventure, Bathe in Gold, 1 and a red, make a treasure. So in theory, you can cast this on turn 3 if you want to. If you want to do nothing on turn 2 and then have a creature on turn 3 that can't block, then this is your card.
Yeah, sounds like a recipe for success. I don't know. How do you feel about this one?
I don't like it. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, I think.
Why can't this block?
Yeah, never blocking is definitely a downside, even under aggressive red creatures.
This isn't even that aggressive. Like.
Yeah, I'm pretty out on this. Maybe this ends up being better than it looks, just because it's got some, you've got the treasure generating thing. Maybe it's better in some decks, but I think I'm gonna start pretty low on this. I think I'm just gonna give this a D.
Yeah, I think D sounds good for me as well.
All right, next up we got Warriors of Tiamat. This is a 5-mana 4/2 haste, 4 and a red, haste double team.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, send it in. They have to block, or else they're taking 4 again the next turn, and then you start taking 8 if they don't.
Take 8 next turn.
Yeah. It's so often we talk about big creatures not having ETB effects and that kind of being a detriment to them. But haste counts as an ETB though, right? Like it's something that
haste and draw a copy.
Definitely an ETB. Yeah, very much an ETB.
It counts as an ETB, I would say.
Yeah, I'm into this. What do you like for this?
I don't know. I kind of want to give it a C+. I don't know.
I'm there. I'm happy.
Oh, and it's a dragon? All right, C+.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool.
All right.
A couple reprints here. We got Farada's Fireball, 3 red for an instant. It deals 5 deals 5 to a creature or planeswalker, and then you roll a d20. 1 to 9, it deals 2 damage to each player. 10 to 20, deals 2 damage to each opponent. I do remember the 2 damage from this being surprisingly relevant, but...
Right, as in it kills you sometimes.
You kill yourself. You're like, oh, I can't actually cast this because I gotta
win this. Yeah.
No, I also remember facing it and being like,
sure.
Ooh, that 2 extra damage is kind of a bummer.
Yep.
But like I said, it's not. We're looking a little less aggressive, I would say, in the red department. At the end of the day, this is a 5-mana removal spell. It's not anything special.
Right, yeah, I agree with you. I think that there was some amount of, oh, you know what, this is a little bit better than it looks, but still not amazing. So I would give this a C-, I would say.
I'm definitely down for C- for sure.
All right, last red common here, another returning creature, Earth Cult Elemental, 4 red for a 6/6. It's a big boy. It's got the roll a d20 here, and when you roll a d20, 1 to 9 is each player sacrifices a permanent. 10 to 19, each opponent sacrifices a permanent. 20, each opponent sacrifices 2 permanents.
This was a sleeper for me for too long.
Yep.
I think a lot of the community caught up to this card before I did, but the joke here is treasures. Make this, you're in a color that produces treasures, so you not only get to ramp this out sooner than turn 6 a lot of the time, but also you will potentially have sacrifice fodder for this more often than your opponent. So while this effect is symmetrical half of the time or 45% of the time, it's not really symmetrical, and 6/6 is huge.
Giants. Massive.
Like, it's still
How did
probably,
they ever win?
Still probably just a C, but again, it's much like the Baleful Beholder. Like, this looks bad and clunky and big and dumb, and it's better than that.
Yeah, it's better than Beholder too. I think this is a card I'm happy about in my deck. Yes. Can I interest you in 2-mana 2/2 sacrifice play this on turn 4?
No, sir, you cannot.
All right,
and then you sack that, and then you sack a land, and then your opponent kills that, and you're left with 2 lands on the battlefield. Cool.
All right, we'll move on to some uncommons then. How about that?
Sounds good. First up is Goblin Trapfinder. Single red for a 1/1. When it dies, seek a creature card with mana value 3 or less. That card perpetually gains haste. This spell costs 2 less to cast. And at the beginning of your end step, sack this creature. What?
Very interesting card. So it's like a sacrifice fodder card, where you sacrifice your 1/1 goblin, you maybe got a few points in, and you draw a big creature, or any creature, and then it comes in for cheap, hasty, then it bursts of damage. So it's almost like a 1-mana 1/1 that when it dies, it deals some amount of future damage to your opponent.
This seems like a constructed card to me. This seems constructed to me. This seems really not good in limited.
Well, I mean, it really depends on how many sacrifice outlets you have. Because if you have good things to sacrifice, like with a bunch of deadly disputes, I'm pretty happy to play this card.
I guess. I don't know. The thing that makes Deadly Dispute good is that once you have one, you can just chain them together. You can sacrifice treasures. You don't need to actually play these derpy cards.
I think this is I don't love this card. I'm not like, oh man, vying for it like I would some actively good 1-drop. But I think if you've got a deck that wants to attack and has sacrifice outlets, maybe it doesn't even need the sacrifice outlets. Like, they can't take one forever. And then again, you get a big burst of damage. Maybe that thing even has a good ETB.
How is this a big burst of damage? Mana value 3 or less.
Oh, I completely missed that. Yeah, it is a small creature. All right. Yeah, you're right. That reads more like a constructed thing. You know what? Forget that. Scratch all that. I'm with you.
Great. We'll just cut all that out.
When part of the range is not you get to haste out an Earth Cult Elemental, I'm a little bit less into it.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
I think this feels like a D to me.
Okay, yeah, I'll join you there.
Okay.
We got Nefarious Enthusiasm up next. 1 red for a sorcery. Nefarious Enthusiasm deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If excess damage was dealt this way, note that excess damage, and then you get a boon with when you cast your next creature spell, it perpetually gets +X/+O, where X is the noted damage.
Ooh.
Cool.
Okay, so kill an X4, kill an X3, the next thing you cast gets +1/+O perpetually.
Mm-hmm.
Kill an X2, +2/+O. I'm into all modes of this card.
Yeah, one of the things about, when you're playing a red aggressive deck is your opponent plays a scary 2-drop, and you go, I really wanted to play my 2-drop, but I've just got to kill that scary 2-drop, and you lose out on a bit of damage. This kind of stops that, or makes up for that a little bit, where it's like, well, now my next thing is going to maybe make up for some of that damage because I killed your scary 2/2. My creature is now a 5/3 or something like that, and that thing's going to be dealing a lot of damage. So I like how this plays. It's just forget all that. It's just a good card, right? Just 2-mana deal 4. It's just good.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is a B.
Yeah, I'm in for that.
Yeah, sorcery speed hits it a little bit, but what you're talking about, like, you might even just be wanting to fire it off first main, so that then the next thing you play is whatever. Yeah, cool. Oh, it's back. Oh my gosh, Battle Cry Goblin, 1 red 2/2. You can pay 1 red. Goblins you control get +1/+O and gain haste until end of turn. It also has Pack Tactics, so when it attacks, if you attacked with creatures with total power 6 or greater this combat, you make a 1/1 red goblin creature token that's tapped and attacking.
It just does so much damage. It's just so much damage out of nowhere, so much of the time.
This is an army in a can.
Yeah, if you haven't played against this card, often what happens is, on turn 2, sure, you just play it as a bear. That's very threatening. On turn 4, a lot of times you'll haste it out, and maybe you'll get a token, maybe you won't. But on turn 6, you haste it out, and you pump it before combat. You'll get a goblin when you attack, and then you can pump it again to pump your team. So, yeah, this card's fantastic. I would give this an A-.
I think you're right. I think this is an A-. This was a Skullport Merchant and Battlecry Goblin format for sure.
Next up, you got Craving of Yino. This is a tough one. All right.
Yeah.
It's 3 mana, 2 and a red.
That
4
art
aura.
is horrifying too.
Oh, it's really cool art. Yeah, I really like this art here. Enchant creature you control. The enchanted creature gets +3/+2 and has haste and attacks each turn during each combat. So that's a big buff, right? 3 mana +3/+2 and haste. It also has an activated ability, red mana. Return it from your graveyard to the battlefield, this aura. Attach to target creature you control. Then the Craving perpetually gains enchanted creature gets -1/-1. Activate this only as a sorcery.
Interesting. So again, the first time you cast it, +3/+2 haste. Then you can recur it for just 1 mana. But now the thing only gets +2/+1, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Then you can recur it again after that creature is dead, and now it just gives +1/+0 in haste.
So it kind of plays a little bit like an equipment, but unlike an equipment that would be costed around this range, it deals a lot of damage.
Yeah.
A lot of damage for not a ton of mana.
Well, especially, I was like, the haste thing doesn't, like the first time around, like 3 mana for the aura that gives haste. It's very unlikely that you're playing a creature and then also slapping this on the front side the first time around. But later on like turn 6, playing a 5-drop, Owlbear, and then smack this puppy on it.
Yeah, that's nice. I like this card.
I think this is good.
Yeah, me too.
Whew.
So I don't know. I would be as high as like a C+. I could see this getting to the B- territory if it's plays out a little bit better than we might think. But
I like C+ here. I'm gonna go C+.
Okay, cool.
That's cool. All right. Next up, we've got Breath Weapon. 2 and a red for an instant. Deals 2 damage to each non-dragon creature.
Okay, so we got an instant speed pyroclasm that hits, most things you would want to hit.
Yeah.
I would say for 2 damage. There's not too many things in the set that are both dragons and have 2 toughness, right?
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. These are always a little bit tricky to set up, and definitely like it's not a.
When was the last time this was good? Vampire's Vengeance.
Yeah, Vampire's Vengeance. It was pretty good. I think was the Pyroclasm any good? I don't remember.
Fiery Cannonade. I don't think it was.
I think it was because the creatures in the form were like you were facing the vampire tokens and like small mercs.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's pretty matchup dependent. Like I think so. It's a very powerful but narrow card because when it is good, it's really really good. But at the same time, it's narrow both in the deck you put it in because not a lot of red decks are going to want this effect, but also the matchup, right? So it's got a lot of stuff that could go wrong. That makes me probably just say it's a sideboard card, a very powerful one.
That's
but
my feeling too. Yeah, I'm in on sideboard here for Breath Weapon.
All right, next up we've got Carnelian Orb of the Dragonkind. So this is the red artifact adding mana of the cycle. 2 in a red, 3 mana artifact. Add red mana, tap it. If that mana was spent to cast a dragon spell, it gains haste until end of turn.
No. Again, no.
Yeah, no. I think these are like more commander cards than anything. Like commander or brawl. They're planted for brawl, I would say. Brawl decks. So, yep. Out of it.
F again. Okay.
Yep.
Swashbuckler Extraordinaire is 2 and red for a 2/2 dragon rogue warrior. When it enters the battlefield, make a treasure. Whenever you attack, you may sacrifice 1 or more treasures. When you do, up to that many target creatures gain double strike until end of turn.
Curious that it isn't a pirate. It's called Swashbuckler, but
that's true.
Yeah, besides
it's a rogue. It's a rogue.
Yeah, that is true. So it's like the plundering barbarian, right? It's a 3 mana 2/2 that makes a treasure token. That's a pretty solid baseline. So it fuels itself for 1 activation, but you can also have multiples. But the nice thing about this is that it plays with the I'm forgetting it, but the double up mechanic. Double team, yeah.
Yeah, it plays with double team very well, right? You give the thing that you are worried about losing in combat that has double team, well, you give that double strike, and now it's safe, and you've drawn that card.
Why do you care about saving your double team creature? Oh, because it needs to get a good attack in, or else you're just giving it up. Yeah, gotcha.
Why do you care about saving your creatures in a game of Magic? I'm not sure.
Why do you care about board presence, Ethan?
Yeah.
Don't you just care about your opponent's life total? I don't follow you.
What are you at? 20 still? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, I've done that before. Oh yeah, I mean, this is a good card, right? This is a the baseline is good, and the additional bonus of giving something double strike also very good.
C+?
Yeah, I think C+ is solid for this.
Okay, cool.
All right, next up we got Two-Handed Axe. This is an equipment, 3 in a red. It's an adventure equipment. That's spicy. That's new. The equipment side is whenever the equipped creature attacks, double its power until end of turn. So its equip cost is 1 in a red. So 3 to cast, 2 to equip. Not that great. The instant side is Sweeping Cleave, 1 in a red. Target creature you control gains double strike until end of turn.
I'm out on this card. I don't really like either parts of it.
Yeah, it's neither do I, but I just wonder if it's just enough to be good. Like, it does push a lot of damage, and like so the way I'm envisioning this is you cast your double strike trick, which will win a combat a lot of the time, or push a lot of damage, and then you've got this thing just kind of left over, right? This equipment that, okay, you could use it or not, but you've just kind of got your money because you're playing this as a trick.
But that trick is, you would not play that card, right?
2-mana double strike? Yeah, you would sometimes. Yeah, I don't think that's an awful combat trick.
But I feel like when we've played that in the past, it's like had a bonus or like
an equipment attached to it.
I mean, but this isn't a good card. Like, yes, the bonus is a bad magic card, but the real trick here is you want to cast this when you have 7 mana, right? So you go
sure, yeah.
Double strike, play my equipment, equip, and now
baby.
double the power, which is like quadruple strike, really.
Yeah. So I think I fall, as much as I'm maybe advocating this for this card, I think I fall more in line with how you're thinking about it. I would probably give this like a D+.
Yeah, I'm gonna go D. I don't love this card.
Okay, I gotta give it that plus.
Gotta give that plus. Next up is Dragonborn Immolator, 3 in a red for a 2/4 Dragon Shaman. It has Smoke Breathing, 1 in a red, +1/+0 until end of turn, and it has Gift of Tiamat. When Dragonborn Immolator dies, note its power. You get a boon with when you cast your next creature spell, it perpetually gets +X/+0, where X is the noted number. It's interesting that all of these perpetual buffs, the boons, do not increase toughness.
Yeah, not yet. I think some of the green ones do.
Oh, not yet. Okay.
Yeah.
4 mana 2/4 with Smoke Breathing, that when it dies is at the very least going to give the next creature you cast perpetually +2/+0.
I really like the stat line of 4 mana 2/4 attack can get bigger, because especially like, so this does the thing where it comes down and blocks on turn 4, stops the 2s and the 3s, and then on attacks it's like your opponent doesn't really have great blocks because you can threaten to turn this into a 5/4 or a 4/4. I guess not a 5/4, but a 4/4, which isn't easily blocked. Then when they do eventually block it, you get a little bit of a bonus. So this is the kind of like red expensive creature that I'm into. It comes down and blocks and then deals a lot of damage on the crackback. So I would be into this card at like a C+ probably.
Yeah, I like C+ for the Immolator as well.
Sweet. Next up, we got Noel Hunting Party. 6 mana for a 4/4, 5 in a red. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature you attack with this turn. It's got double team, and as long as it's your turn, the Noel Hunting Party has first strike. Ooh. So, not hard to imagine this coming down as a 4-cost creature. 4 mana 4/4.
Play a 2-drop, play a 3-drop. Turn 4, attack with both. Cast this. What? This card is messed up.
This card's very good, yeah.
I mean, like, again, obviously, like, we're talking about best case scenario in that sense. And there are going to be times where you aren't attacking with a thing and you can't cast this, or you're playing a 6 mana 4/4 that doesn't block particularly well.
Yep.
But, like, just build your deck better then.
don't
be
draw
bad.
bad cards.
Don't be bad. Be good. Yeah, this card looks very good to me.
And imagine, like, this isn't a resounding argument for this card, but there will be times when you cast this for like 2 mana when you've got pretty good attacks already, and it's just like, well, I've got a bunch of small creatures, maybe something gets eaten, but I make some good trades, and then this comes down for 2 mana, you cast something else. And that's wow.
Oh yeah. Whew. Okay.
You want to go B on this?
I kind of do.
All right.
Be honest, I kind of do.
We haven't given out a lot of Bs. It's kind of funny. Maybe because we've played with a lot of these cards, and we kind of know that maybe some of the ones we would give more optimistic grade to. It's like we know how this card plays out. But
next is Red Dragon, 4 red for a 4/4 dragon with flying, and it has Fire Breath. When it enters the battlefield, deals 4 damage to each opponent. So basically, like, it has haste effectively.
Yeah, haste vigilant.
Haste unblockable the turn it comes into play. Whatever.
Yeah, this card was always solid. Right?
Yeah, C+, I'd say.
Yep, C+.
Never really like a pull, but pretty good. All right, and now we've got our headache cards here. What's first?
All right, so we've got Ambergris, Citadel Agent. This is a 2 and a red, 3/2 haste with specialized 3. You know, it says when Ambergris attacks, you may discard your hand and draw 2 cards. So that's nice if you cash in the last few cards if they're not good, or if you're empty-handed, you just draw 2. So that's nice. And it's in May. You don't have to do it on your 3 mana, 3/2 haste. So solid front side. The mono red side here is 4/3 haste. When it attacks, you do the whole you may discard your hand, draw 2. And then if you do, Ambergris deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of cards you've discarded this turn.
Meh. The red-white version is a 4/3 with haste. When it attacks, you may discard your hand, draw 2 cards. If you do, other creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards you've discarded this turn.
Wow, okay. The blue version is 4/3 haste, and when you discard your hand, you may draw 3 cards instead of 2.
That is not that big of a boost. That just seems... Yeah, okay, whatever. The black version is when you do target creature an opponent controls gets -X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards you've discarded this turn.
And then the green version is when you discard your hand, you put X +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control, where X is the number of cards you discarded this turn. Either would you like to draw an additional card or give your team +3/+3 on your attackers?
One of these versions draws you an additional card. One of these versions wins you the game. So this is one where it feels like the disparity among them is quite large. The white one seems insane. That's the anthem for your team. The black one seems also good. That's the one that lets you kill something, or -X. Green one a little okay, and then the blue one and the mono one are just whatever.
Yeah. Overall, this is a nice card though.
Yeah, I'd probably give this. What is this? C+?
I would put this in the B somewhere category, like in either B-. It could get it up to a B. I don't know, just the baseline of 3/2 haste. You draw some cards. 3/2 haste.
But 3/2 haste isn't that good. It's fine.
Yeah, I guess so. So there's going to be spots where you get your first 3 damage in. That's really nice. Or if you don't, you just hold it back, and it does start to threaten a lot of ways. Either you start to refill your hand or transform something good. But part of the range is sometimes your opponent attacked on turn 2, and you get to bash them back. And then the backsides, the good backsides, anyways, are pretty good. And even that blue one we were kind of clowning on because it's not as good is still a good effect.
But it is well, I'm clowning on it because it's literally done nothing. I guess if you have no cards in hand, sure, it's fine. But you had to discard a card, as you keep saying. You had to specialize. You had to discard a card.
That's true. Well, exactly. You get to down to lower cards quicker, so it's not as painful.
That's true.
I don't know. I'm going to give this card a B-. Okay,
I'm going to go C+. But
yeah, that's fair. Also, the white side, man, that
is ridiculous. Yeah. The last one we have here is Gut, but I assume it's Gut. Fanatical Priestess. This is 4 red for a 4/3. The specialized cost is 5. When it enters the battlefield, up to 1 target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. If the creature you don't control would die this turn, exile it instead. Okay. Pretty good. And the first backside is 4 triple red for a 5/4. When it specializes, you make a token that's a copy of a creature card exiled with this creature, except it has double strike and haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end step. Okay, so this comes into play. A creature you control fights another creature. That creature dies. It's exiled. And then you flip this into Gut Furious Fanatic. And then you get that creature for a turn, a double strike and haste, and then you sack it, right?
Yeah, so the front side is 6 mana creature that kills. Maybe you can line it up well, or kill something you really want to kill, but most likely it's going to kill something smaller, which is still good, right? It's still a nice little stabilizing play. The white side here, it turns into a 5/4, same thing. Create 2 token copies of the exiled creature, except they're 2/2s and have haste. Sacrifice them at the end step.
Okay, weird. It's also weird that these have different. Oh no, they're all 5/4s. Okay,
yeah, they're all the same. Yeah.
The blue-red one is you make a copy of the creature exiled, except it's a 3/3 and has flying and haste, and then you sacrifice it.
The black version is the creature is a 4/4 with menace, and then you sacrifice it. Same thing.
Pretty sick. 4/4 menace haste, and the green one is a 5/5 with trample and haste.
Yeah, they just get bigger each color. We go.
They get bigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
So mono red is the thing has double strike. White is 2/2/2s. Blue is 3/3 flyer. Green is 5/5 trample. Black is 4/4 menace.
they're all pretty similar.
That's all pretty
right?
comparable, yeah.
Yeah, all pretty comparable. You're really looking at the front side of this card and
This
evaluating it.
I like
there.
this card.
Yeah, me too. It's expensive, but it's in the treasure color, so that gives it a bit of a boost. Yeah, I think this card's.
I think it's like a B.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I really like this.
Sweet.
All right.
That's gonna move us on to our last color here, and we know we're gonna hate it because we hate green cards here when we do our set reviews. First up is you line up the shot. Single green for an instant. Choose one. Conjure a card named Plummet into your hand. Conjure a card named Naturalize into your hand, or draw a card. Best of one players rejoice. Actually, this is a pretty sweet best of one design.
Yeah, as much as I think people have been kind of bemoaning the whole alchemy digital aspect of the set, or just alchemy in general. I think this is, if they could do more designs kind of like this, just very elegant feeling, I think people would enjoy it a lot more. Because this is a really elegant and cool card.
And very cheap. Like, yeah, just really, really good. I think this is probably just a C. This could just be a C+. Like, it's just such free real estate.
So I guess to put it in non-alchemy terms, it's kind of like a Broken Wings with cycling, right? And cycling is a cost, right? It's not just free to have.
Yeah,
as we know,
Broken Wings with cycling is exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all. Like, so I know there's a lot of players, and I think you're a little bit higher on the spectrum than I am here. I know there's people that are higher than you even that will really they like main decking Broken Wings in their best of one decks, right? It's just especially some
I don't like main decking Broken Wings in best of one.
Oh, maybe I'm getting you confused then. I maybe. Well, you don't play best of one, so it doesn't matter.
I also don't play best of one, but I also do not. There are a couple things here. One, I keep saying best of one, but like I don't actually think you should be main decking cards in best of one that you wouldn't main deck in best of three.
Right.
And then two, I also don't like. Ben likes to put those garbage cards in his deck. I don't. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of main decking situational cards.
Okay, well, I apologize for the defamation here, then, Ethan. Yeah. I know that Just Lolaman and Newmont in particular like putting Broken Wings in their main decks in a lot of formats. So I can swallow that a little bit easier if the card does have cycling.
Yeah.
How good is it in this format remains to be seen. I don't think it's going to be amazing. There's not a ton of flyers or a ton of artifacts and enchantments to blow up.
Well, especially one of the colors that often gets flyers that you need to deal with is strictly unplayable in blue.
Yeah, exactly. So, sure.
Yeah.
On a high mythic ladder, you're not going to see blue decks all that often, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I would probably just give this a C. Like, it's fine card. It's cool. That's one of the best things I can say about it, but it's not, it doesn't blow me away.
Yeah, seems right.
All right, next up we got Circle of the Land Druid. 1 and a green for a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, you mill 4 cards, and then when it dies, you return a land from your grave to your hand.
No.
Yeah, mostly no. If you again, this is the whole. Well, if you really cared about milling 4 cards, maybe that's the part of the card you care about. But unlike Satyr Wayfinder, I want to call it, from it was an old Theros card that just put the card land into your hand. Not drawing that land immediately is pretty
it's really bad.
Yeah, because you can imagine it's like, well, I can just jump with this thing. And that's true sometimes, but sometimes your opponent's not gonna have a 2-drop and you really wanted that land and you missed your 3rd land drop, right? So yeah, this is mostly a card that you want if you have reasons to put cards in the grave. And if you don't want it, and even if you do, it's not that good.
I think it's a D.
Yeah. I'm into that.
Next up, we got a reprint Noel Hunter. 1 and a green for a 2/2 Noel with pack tactics. When it attacks, if you attacked with creatures with total power 6 or greater this combat, put a +1/+1 counter on Noel Hunter.
Yeah, I similar to Hobgoblin, or the captain, the captain. 1/2, so the 3/1. I was lower on this card as the format went on. I think compared to a lot of people, where it kind of does a similar thing as the captain and grows, and when you snowball with it, it does feel pretty good. Mostly though, it's a 2-mana 2/2, and I think especially because maybe green white or green red is supported as kind of a beatdown green red deck, but that always, honestly, to be frank here, green red beatdowns is never a very good archetype in limited. We've seen that over and over and over again, right?
Yeah, when was the last time green red mid range was good?
Right.
Other than just like it being an aggro format and you turn them sideways, whatever.
Yeah, and even in formats like that, it's still not one of the better things to do. And we had Crimson Vow, it was okay there, but it still wasn't anything amazing. Correct. Anyways, back to Noel Hunter. Fine card, okay card. I would give it a C-.
I'm with you. I think.
Yep.
I can't say anything other than it's unblockable with Thieves Tools for a couple turns.
Yep, there we go.
Next up, what do we got?
Poison the Blade. This is 1 and a green for an instant. Target creature gains Death Touch until end of turn. Draw a card. Green Blade Brand.
Why?
I don't know. I was looking earlier. I'm like, oh, what's this here for? I guess just to spread out the love with Death Touch, because it is primary in both black and green. I don't know. There's nothing that this really speaks to, I don't think, in this set that I can see right away, or even after looking at the set for the past 5 hours. So I think it's a fine card, but generally your green creatures don't have that much of a hard time trading.
Right, in a color where your stuff is either big, and there's also sometimes you're like, oh, maybe with like a bite spell or whatever, but there's a basilisk. We're gonna get to the basilisk in a second.
Yeah.
So like, this is confusing to me. I'm gonna go like D+.
Yeah, again, like we've said, draw a card only has such a low floor.
Well, but you can get blown out with this one.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would go D+ as well.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Next up, this card. Hello. Scaled Nurturer. 1 and a green for an 0/2. This is a dragon druid. You tap to add a green, and when you spend this mana to cast a dragon creature spell, you gain 2 life.
Yep.
So? I don't love that this doesn't fix. I don't love that this doesn't have power. I don't really love this card.
Yeah. I think if your mana dork doesn't do something in the later part of the game, or if you don't have, like in decks that have a lot of top end, which maybe isn't always where you want to be anyways, a 2-mana mana dork is passable. But I think for most purposes, this isn't a great card. It's not a card you're just going to put in any green deck. You really want to be doing something with it. Or if you have ways to sacrifice it, maybe you're black-green, you have Deadly Dispute.
I don't know. I could see... Maybe we poo-pooed the blue cards a little too much. I don't know. I could see a blue-green... I could see a blue-green deck that, like, because there is so much ramp in green...
Yep.
That didn't exist in AFR the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got this dragon thing. I could see a world where you do end up getting, like, the 11 dragon blue-green splash ramp deck. And just being good in that. But like, that's,
exactly.
That's a lot of if.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm gonna probably say D for the Nurturer.
I would just want to temper people's expectations, because like I say this every set review, right? Every set review I say that the people overvalue mana dorks and limited, like ones that don't provide additional value after they've kind of outstayed their welcome and done their thing. But yeah, like you said, if you have some expensive stuff, this is good there. Like you gave it a generic D, but if you have a use for it, it's in the right deck, it's closer to like a C or a C+.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So where are you starting it?
I would, I'm going to give it like a synergy C then. I think
sure.
so, yeah.
Okay. That's fair. I like that. Yeah. That's a little more positive.
Next up, we've got Underdark Basilisk. This is 2 mana, 1 and a green for a 1/2 Death Touch.
Yeah. We'll see. There's a joint bite spell and band together. So having a Death Touch creature is nice.
Yep. Good in your defensive decks. Not great otherwise. So yep. C in those decks and pretty unplayable anywhere else.
Arcane Archery is next. 2 and a green for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+3 and gains reach and trample until end of turn. You get a boon with when you cast your next creature spell, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter, reach counter, and trample counter on it.
Oof, that's a lot.
Yeah, but it's also a 3-mana trick. I mean, trample is 3-mana trick that gives +3/+3, reach for defense, trample for offense. That's all good, but it is 3 mana. I don't know. How excited can you get by this card?
Oh, sure, for sure. I'm just pointing out as, it's like, I think better than your average trick,
Better than your average 3-mana trick, you mean?
Well, when you get to the 3-mana range, you're not really looking for efficiency in your trick. You're looking for like value in your trick, right? It gives you something more than super efficient. It's like, oh, this gives me some additional bonus. And I think that pushing through a bunch of damage on the turn you cast it, but also making your next creature bigger is enough value. It's it's not comparable to like a suit up or a majestic metamorphosis, but I think it's a solid trick.
Okay, what? Give me a letter here.
Probably still a C-.
Okay.
Not great, but it's I think don't shy away from this just because it does cost 3 mana, because it does give you a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, next up we've got Follow the Tracks. This is a cool one. 2 and a green for a sorcery. Conjure a card of your choice from Follow the Tracks spellbook onto the battlefield. And the spellbook of Follow the Tracks is the 5 uncommon gates that you can pay 4 mana, tap them, and seek a card out. So this is a 5-color fixer, and it's not drafting from a spellbook, worth noting. I thought the first time I read this, I was like, oh, you only get to pick 1 of 3.
No.
You just pull a spellbook, get to put any of those on the battlefield. So a 5-color fixer that you don't even, like if you're a blue-green deck,
right, you don't have to put the land in your deck.
Exactly, and that's a nice little benefit.
Also,
cute. It's ramp you, draw a card later,
ramps,
right?
Yeah, ramp, draw the card later. Ooh. I think this might be good.
Yeah, I think so. Look, it's very much, if this is a good thing to do with the format, it's going to be a good card. If it's not, we're going to be like, yeah, that was a bad card. But for this effect, for this mana cost, if this is the role you want to fill, it does a lot of really good things.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go C on Follow the Tracks.
Yeah, I'll join you there.
Cool. Here's the aforementioned removal spell. Band together is 2 and a green for an instant. Up to 2 target creatures you control each deal damage equal to their power to another target creature.
Yeah, so this is nice on a lot of fronts, right? So one, you don't have to. It's harder to get blown out on this. You target 2 largest, the biggest things you have. Your opponent has a removal spell. Maybe their removal spell doesn't still prevent their creature from dying, right? They have a 4/4. You got 2 4/4s. They go, all right, target both of them. I'm dealing 8 to you. So unlike a regular bite spell, there's a little bit of mitigation there.
Mm-hmm.
But also, just unlike a regular bite spell, this can kill bigger things, right? Like, usually it's like, well, if I don't have the biggest thing, I can't kill their biggest thing, right? And that's a problem a lot of the time. Also, this is a bite, not a fight. It's got a lot of the hallmarks of things you like in a fight spell, or, fight/bite spell. So I like it.
Yeah, I think still just a C.
Yeah, exactly. Still just a C. There's setup required. It's not close to the black removal spells, but solid for green.
Right. Yeah. Okay. What's next?
We got Circle of the Moon Druid, another reprint. 2 and a green for a 2/4, and it says as long as it's your turn, the Moon Druid is a 4/2. So 4/2 on attacks, 2/4 on blocks.
With less pack tactics, this, like, obviously we still have the 2 drops, but with less pack tactics, this is less important. That was like the thing was like, oh, this can block, but then it can help enable tactics. Otherwise,
and even then it wasn't.
It wasn't really that great. But that was the thing. Then now it just feels like a
whatever card.
A D.
I think it's just a D. Yeah.
All right. Next up, we've got Druidic Ritual. 2 and a green for a sorcery. You may mill 3 cards, then return up to 1 creature card and up to 1 land card from your graveyard to your hand.
Interesting. So it's sort of kind of, it's the card from Theros.
Well, it's kind of a Season of Renewal.
Season of Renewal a little bit, but yeah, not getting two
not
spells.
being an instant, not getting 2 spells. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I guess. So I guess forget about graveyard synergies. How happy are you about mill 3 cards? Maybe you cast on turn 3, hope to spike something. You draw a land, you draw a creature.
I'm really not happy about casting this on turn 3.
Yeah.
So
later in the game,
I'll reject.
You don't care about the land.
Later in the game, I don't care about the land, and so it's just 3 mana.
Yep.
Like, just give me Grapple with the Past, right? Just give me 1 and a green, mill 3 at instant speed, either get a land or a creature.
I do really like this hypnotic or psychedelic frog guy on in the art, but aside from that, I think this is the card I'm mostly out on.
Yeah, I think I'm going D- here. I don't like this.
If there was more graveyard stuff going on that I actually cared about and I thought was actually good to go for, maybe we're wrong and this is a good thing to go after, then this card goes up in value. But as it stands, my rating on this card is not very high. I'd give it a D.
Yeah. Yep. Me too.
All right. Sylvan Shepherd is another one here. We've got 2 and a green for a 2/3 Vigilance. When it attacks, you roll a D20. When to 9, you gain a life. 10 to 19, you gain 2. Not 20, you gain the full 5 life. Oof.
Yeah, this was not this was a thing to do, a weird way to trigger your life gain stuff. And also in AFR, this was sometimes weirdly a body that was tough to interact with. Because you're looking at your board of 2/2s and you're like, am I supposed to double block this and then get blown out? But I don't think that's what this set doesn't. I don't know. This seems like a D+ to me.
Yeah, I think I would just give this a D. I think even when you have the life, if you had 2 or 3 of the uncommon green white uncommon that cares when you gain life, it's okay. It gets you give it a little bit of credence there, but it's not a card you're going to be playing draft in, draft out.
All right, here we go. This is my card. Underseller Myconid is 2 and a green for a 1/2 fungus. When it enters the battlefield or dies, create a 1/1 green sap-rolling creature token, and it taps to add 1 mana of any color.
This card's so sicko. It's so good.
This card's so good.
Yeah, so one of the downsides of a mana accelerant is you cast this thing that doesn't really attack, doesn't really block. A 1/1 added to the equation there is really big, because even if it doesn't actually blank an X1 your opponent have, you can some turn down the line or this turn, you can block their 3/3 or block their 4-power creature. It gives you so much time for casting whatever you're looking to cast with this Underseller Mike. And then, later in the game, this jumps twice if you don't have a use for the mana.
Yeah, for sure. I really like this card. I'm giving it a C+. I could see it being B-.
I'm gonna give it a B-. Yeah, right. I think it's really good.
Twist my arm.
Getting a long line. What did I tell you, Ethan? Long list of 3 mana accelerants that in this set, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's true. That's true.
Here,
Yeah.
artifacts. Anyways, next one we've got Ambitious Dragonborn. This is a 4 mana, 3 and a green, 0/0 Dragon Barbarian. It enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control and creatures in your grave.
X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Creature cards in your graveyard.
So it's only going to count one thing, whatever the biggest thing is.
This is horrible.
Yeah, I don't think this is very good.
This is a terrible Magic card.
You're like really hoping to get a 4/4 out of the deal, and then if you do, it's
like
not
you're
that
hoping
good.
to jump through some hoops to get a 4-mana 4/4 that you will almost never have on time.
It's good with the Circle of the Moon Druid. I suppose, yeah. This is a bad card. This is like an I would almost say an F.
I kind of want to give this an F.
Yeah, let's do it.
There was a. Never mind. There's no way I'm gonna remember this card, but this is reminding me of another card that like had this. It was like a 0/0, 4-mana 0/0, but like came into play with something according to
M15.
Yeah, sure. Wow, you're just pulling that out of.
It entered the battlefield with the Scavenger. It was entered the battlefield with.
Was it Origins or was it M15?
I think it was M15.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of. Terrible.
Okay.
I'm going.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry, chat and whoever's listening.
We're talking about terrible cards. Okay.
Just Grandpa's talking about old sets. Anyways.
Back in my day.
Yeah.
Except Inspiring Bard, 3 and a green for a 3/3 elf bard. When it enters the battlefield, choose one. Either target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, or you gain 3 life.
Yeah, this was always okay. Like you were like, okay, I'm okay playing with this card. It gains me life. It pushes through some damage. It was never amazing.
Yeah, that's my feeling. Like I agree. Like, but green is not looking like aggressive. At least the green isn't looking aggressive. At least in AFR where this existed, you could. Or wait, was this AFR?
This was AFR, yeah.
Okay. Oh, right. I was like, yeah, okay. This was AFR. So I think even there, I think like you had some aggressive decks, and so it was nice to have that modality. Or sometimes you wanted the life gain when you were green white or whatever. But yeah, this just seems filler, C- to me.
It's filler, but filler you weren't like too upset with playing.
Right.
So that's like C-, I guess is what I would say for that.
All right.
Next up, we've got Ettercap. This is 4 and a green, 5 mana for a 2/5 reach, and it's got an adventure, instant web shot, 2 and a green, destroy target creature with flying.
A little less excited about a like, oh cool, I can have a main deck plummet if I want. When you line up the shot exists, you know?
Yeah. Well, also, I just think it's interesting. It's like, oh, kill your flyer. Oh, really? I hate flyers.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Flying, right? Yeah, I don't think this is very exciting.
No, this seems like this will be great sideboard material. But
sure, yeah.
Don't think you're happy to main deck this.
Yeah, I would give this a sideboard grade.
You're happy to main deck this though. This is Owlbear, 3 green for a 4/4 bird bear with trample, and when it enters the battlefield, draw a card.
I think this card even got a buff now that there's a lot of 3 mana accelerants that you're happy to play. Yeah, this was good, really good in the last set. I think it might even be better here. I'm gonna start with this as a B-.
Yeah, I kind of just want to go B, to be honest.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just 4 mana 4. Like, I mean, it's okay. Not always gonna be a turn 4 card, but 5 mana 4/4 draw a card, trample. That's just really solid.
Yeah, Gorgeous George.
Yep, we got George's back. 6 mana, 4 green for a 7/6, and when it ETBs, you gain 3 life.
Yeah, this was keyword big.
Yeah.
Keyword huge, to be honest.
Stabilize you.
And the incidental life game was nice too.
And again, if we're spending turn 3 ramping, this on turn 5 is gigantic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm into this.
Again, this is better than Baleful Beholder, better than the 6/6 in red.
Crystal Elemental, yes.
Yeah. So
that's good.
But like still not, it's not like a B or anything.
No, I would still put it like a C+.
Yeah. And last
somehow it's not the biggest green common, and we've got something else here.
I was like, oh no, did I put this as a common?
No,
this is actually a common. So this is Dread Linorm, 6 and a green for a 7/6 snake dragon. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or less. And it has an adventure of scale deflection, 3 and a green, instant. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature and untap it. It gains hexproof until end of turn. So this is just, so we had this adventure in Eldraine, right?
Mm-hmm. But it wasn't an instant, and
right, wasn't an instant, and what didn't give hexproof? Didn't untap the thing.
No, it didn't untap. Just gave the counters. Yeah.
Just dump the counters on the thing. But it costs the same.
Yep, and the thing you got was a 6-mana 6/5, I think.
That sounds right to me. Yeah, the Tree Folk. Yeah, two Unveil Tree Folk was what it was called.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. I mean, if you can set this up where you get to win a combat, put counters on something, and then you have a 7/6 hard to block just waiting there, that's pretty nice. It's not always going to happen. And unlike some of the more, the other expensive adventures we saw, this adventure doesn't really help you set up to get to the late game. I mean, yeah, like I said, if you can line that up, great, but it's not going to be in every game. Yeah, I can line that up where I get to win a combat and my opponent didn't have an interaction spell. I think this is mostly on a card I'm looking to put in my deck, unless you just end up. So I'm saying that with the.
It's interesting this cycle of like big. Is it a cycle? I guess some of them are uncommon, some are common.
Yeah,
but
big things with adventures.
This cycle of big adventures, right? Like, got an effect, and then that is a card. And expensive, but it is a card, and then a big body later. I don't know. It would just be weird though. This set seems weird to me. It would just be weird to have that. Like one of these, I could be like, all right, whatever. But to have like one in each color, like are these good?
So I think the main idea here is that if you're going to put this much ramp into a set, you don't want people ramping into nothing in common. Like this is the big thing you're ramping into a common. I would say.
Okay.
Right. My what I was saying is maybe I'm not as interested in playing this card if the Hill Giant that we just looked at, the gains 3, is probably just as good. If
it's
not
probably better, right?
Right. Yeah. So if you don't get those and you don't get good rares, well, then you've taken a bunch of ramp early, and this is the thing that you're left with.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, that's not the worst card, especially because it can turn your ramp creatures into something potentially, like into a bigger thing. So I would give this a C in a deck that is set up to cast it with a bunch of ramp.
Yeah, I think I'll go C-, but
okay, yeah, that's fair enough too. Yeah. I can see that as well.
All right, next up we've got Wild Shape. Single green instant, choose one until end of turn. Target creature you control has that base power and toughness, becomes that creature type, and gains that ability. So you can either make it a 1/3 turtle with hexproof, more interested in the hexproof than the 1/3, a 1/5 spider with reach, or a 3/3 elephant with trample.
Yeah, it's for the most part a protection spell to turn into a hexproof creature, right? Like that's what you're using it for most of the time.
I'm not a huge fan of this card.
Yeah, this one wasn't so good. So we saw Tameo Safekeeping and Snakeskin Veil. The problem here is that if you ever get your thing into combat and you give it hexproof, it just dies because it turns into a 1/3.
So small, yeah.
Right, and there's not the additional little bonus of life gain or anything like that. So yeah, this is not in the same class as those other cards, or at least not on the same power level.
So
yeah, I think so. I think this isn't a card you're going to play very often.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, what's next?
Yeah, Prospector Keeper, welcome addition or welcome returning crew member here. So we've got 1 and a green for a 1/1. It's a halfling citizen. When the innkeeper enters the battlefield, you make a treasure token, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life.
Yeah, this card's good. I mean, I think it will get worse without the life gain theme being as prevalent. But this card is still good. Like,
still good though. Yeah.
2 mana 1/1. Make a treasure to ramp you or fix you for future stuff. Plus, having that Soul Ward in effect was quite good.
Yeah, I think even without the life gain stuff, like this card gets played and constructed because
just gain like 4 life randomly throughout the course of the game.
Right. Yeah. That's good enough.
That's good.
I think it's a C+.
Yeah, I think so too.
Next up, choose your weapon. 2 and a green for an instant. Choose one of them. Either double target creature's power and toughness until end of turn, or deal 5 to a flyer.
No, I do not like this card.
Yeah,
it's just too expensive and doesn't actually like. Neither half is very good, and now we've seen like essentially two ways to get like quote unquote free plummets.
Yep.
In your deck that don't actually have damage restrictions on them.
Yeah, a lot of main deckable plummets in a set with honestly not that many flyers. It's interesting to me that there's that many of them. So yeah, it's like sideboard D or something, Yeah.
Okay, Jade Orb of Dragonkind, 2 and a green for an artifact. It's a green mana rock, and when you spend this mana to cast a dragon creature spell, it enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it and gains hexproof until your next turn.
It's the best we've seen in the cycle, but still not very good.
Still not a card. Are we going triple Fs?
Yep, triple F. Let's do it.
Okay.
All right, we got Lurking Roper. It's a 3 mana, 2 and a green, 4/5. It doesn't untap during your untap step, but if you gain a life, you can untap it.
3 mana, 4/5 is big.
Yep, huge.
And then being able to attack with it, or just untap it with your Clever Conjurer, as I said.
Exactly. Yeah.
Probably C+, maybe Synergy C+.
Yeah, sometimes you.
But like this, the thing is like even if you can't do anything with it, 3 mana 4/5 Defender,
right,
was like,
not the worst.
Still not the worst.
Yeah, yeah. So you do want some number of ways to untap this in your deck, but the times you don't draw them, like that's the kind of the calculus here. It's like you're not going to put this card in your deck if you can't ever untap it, but it's good. It's fine enough when the turns or the games where you don't draw your life gain right away that it just sits there for a while and it's still okay.
Yeah. So I think C+.
Yep, I'm there.
For the Roper.
What's next? Next
up, we got a new one. This is Owlbear Shepherd, 2 and a green for a 1/4 Goblin Druid. At the beginning of your end step, if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater, draw a card. I will say, having Pack Tactics in a set and then having this card is a little weird.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision.
So, things in this card's favor. It's not an enchantment.
Yeah.
Right? It affects the board.
It blocks.
It blocks well. And it happens on your end step, not on your upkeep.
Yeah, that's big.
Downside, this contributes 1 power towards the 8 power.
Sure, yeah.
But it's not embarrassing. Like, I think this is pretty good.
Yeah, no, me too. It blocks a lot of things early. So you're gonna have to go like you play a 2-drop, you play this, you have an Owlbear as the art suggests and the name suggests here, and then you have to play something else. But like you're not gonna draw a card for a little while, but just having this as a defensive creature that then turns into something, right? That's good early, good late is maybe an easy way to put that.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
That's great. Yeah.
C+?
C+, I think.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
All right, we got Split the Spoils next. So this is 2 and a green for a sorcery. Exile up to 5 target permanent cards from your graveyard and separate them into 2 piles. An opponent chooses one of those piles, put that pile into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. And the piles can be empty if that's something you want. It's reminding you of that. So it's like a fact or fiction, but fact or fiction is very different when your opponent chooses the piles as opposed to when you choose the piles.
Well, and also when you can't cast this on turn 3 or 4.
Right, yeah.
Like, oh my
5
gosh.
permanents is a lot. Yeah.
F.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of setup and also not that good. So F.
Yeah. Okay. Next up is Draconic Muralists, 3 and a green for a 4/3 dragon bard creature. When it dies, you may search your library for a dragon card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Okay.
Ooh, that's nice. Yeah, I mean, it's not hard to have a dragon, even if it's not like some big mythic dragon. If it is, that's great. But even if it's just some, curve filling dragon, a 4/3 for 4 that dies into another card, that's a good card.
Yeah, this feels like a B- to me.
Yeah, I think so. It's got a range, right? Like there's gonna be some decks where it's like, yeah, it's just a C, it's fine, or a C+. And then sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I really want this Muralist so I can go get my big, 7 mana mythic dragon.
I mean, even if this is just 4 mana, 4/3, it dies, and you grab a mana dork.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe I'll join you there. You want to do a B-?
I think it's a B-, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. What's next?
All right. We got Druid of the Emerald Grove. So this is 3 and a green, 4 mana for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal them, and then roll a d20. 1 to 9, you put those cards into your hand. 10 to 19, you put one of those cards onto the battlefield and one of them in your hand. And then 20, you put both of them on the battlefield.
Huh.
I think it's great.
Yeah. 4 mana, 2/2, find 2 lands?
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of, not quite, but Beseiju.
Yeah, I was just going to say. So it's certainly worse than Beseiju Reaches Skyward, but that's fine by me.
Yeah, this is a very good card. I think this is good. It fixes you as well, right? It's not just forest or anything,
and is likely to not likely, but whatever 45%, 55% of the time to ramp you. So just slightly more than half of the time will ramp you as well.
Yeah, Solemn Simulacrum vibes a little bit, slightly, right?
Yeah.
I think this card's a B. Yeah,
I think so too.
This is a good one.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we've got Emerald Dragon, which is 4 green for a 4/4. With flying and trample. It's also an adventure. It has Dissonant Wave, 2 and a green for an instant. Counter target activated or triggered ability from a non-creature source.
Well, it's cross that off the bingo card if you are as lucky.
Oh, did you think you were gonna draw a card from your land? No,
Nope.
You're not.
Sorry, and you can't even activate
You can't
that
do
again.
it again. You're done.
All right, so probably not coming out very much. Yeah, it's a 6 mana 4/4 trample flyer dragon.
That's like a C-.
Yeah, it's a C-, and then you give whatever marginal boosts if you have dragon synergies.
Sure, yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe within green it's a little better because of all the ramp. That this can come down as on turn 5.
But you're just so much happier ramping into an owl bear or a hell giant or even that 7/6.
Yeah,
you know
exactly. All right. We're going to bring us home here with the last 2 specialized cards. The first one is Jaheira, Harper, Emissary, 1 in the green for a 2/3 with hexproof from artifacts and enchantments. So 2 mana, 2/3, whatever. Specialize 2. The mono green side is Jaheira, Merciful Harper. It's a 3/4. It also has the hexproof from artifacts and enchantments text. And when it's specialized, you destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment and gain 4 life.
Okay. The white side here, white side is the same thing. It flips and specializes, destroys an enchantment or artifact, and you put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures.
2 other target creatures.
Sorry, 2 other target creatures. Yeah.
The green-blue one, when this creature specializes, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. Scry 2.
The black
blue
one here.
Even getting the shaft in these specialized cards.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
It's like a sick joke here.
Yeah.
The black side, when you destroy, you can destroy an artifact or enchantment, and then each opponent loses 2 life.
3 life.
Sorry, man, what's
Alex is done. Alex is done. The end of the day,
I'm gone. Yeah,
he's done.
See you later.
And the red-green one is a 3/4, has the same text. When you blow up the thing, you get a boon with when you cast your next creature spell, it perpetually gets +1/+0 and gains haste.
Okay, so fine front side, 2 mana, 2/3, and then when you specialize, you can discard a card to gain 4 life or put some counters on.
How many artifacts and enchantments are there? Not that much.
Well, there is there's Pilgrimage and all they're kind of rampy things, and there's enchantment based removal spells, and there's some rares, of course, that you can blow up. When we get to rares tomorrow, it's nice to have around on your 2 mana 2/3. Really, and then eventually you're like, okay, well, I can get a little bit of a bonus by discarding a land, make her a little bit bigger. It domes your opponent for 3. Maybe you got a scry, maybe you get some counters. So it's not a bad card all in all.
No, I think on rate, I would just give it like a C+.
Yeah, I think so too. And then when you
blow up a thing, you're gonna be like, oh heck yes, but I don't think that's gonna happen that much.
If you blow up a thing, it's a B.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah, hard to count for that range in a letter grade though.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up, last card here. We've got Skanos, Dragon Vessel. So this is 5 mana, 4 and a green for a 4/4 Dragon Ranger, specialized 4. When Skanos attacks, another target attacking creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is Skanos' power. The green side here is a Vigilant 6/6 that has that same ability. Whenever it attacks, another creature gets +X/+0, where X is Skanos' power.
The green-white is a 4/4 with lifelink and has that text. Whenever another target attacking creature, or whenever it attacks, another target attacking creature gets lifelink plus the +X/+0.
Blue side, same text, but it has flying.
Black side, same text, but it has menace.
Also a 5/5.
And a 5/5, thank you.
Playing with the power and toughness. And then the red side is First Strike 5/5. Same text.
That's big.
Yeah, the Vigilant 6/6 is it's kind of funny. That's the one the lifelink one is very good too.
Yeah, I was gonna say the lifelink one has my attention.
Yeah, the first 2 for sure.
Vigilant, 6/6 with vigilance that gives another thing vigilance, and the other thing doesn't get vigilance. Oh no, it does because you untap it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. This seems good.
5 mana 4/4 specialized 4 is a little bit iffy.
It's a little bit iffy.
Yeah. I think just the fact that it's expensive and expensive specialized makes me a little bit more down on it. I think it's probably gonna fall in C+ range.
Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna go
solid card.
Yeah, C. What do you want? C+, C?
Yeah, let's go C+. It's got enough going on.
Okay, cool.
And it's a dragon to boot. So.
Oh, it's a dragon to boot. That's
yeah.
Right. All right, sweet. And that's gonna do it for the commons and uncommons.
Nice.